Okay, Pat.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Quality of Life Committee for CB1. I'm Pat Moore, the chair. Mariama James is the co-chair. I don't think she's on yet. She'll be joining us later. And the first item on our agenda tonight, EDC is going to tell us about the demolition of the new market building. So good evening, Will, and thank you for coming. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Pat. Good evening, Pat, members of the committee. Lucian, thank you for having me. Just want to also introduce James Nocito, who is here. James is with Hunter Roberts Construction Group, a construction management firm that EDC contracts with to do work around the city. I also see Prince Flanagan is here from EDC's asset management, design and construction team. So thanks to the team for joining as well. I'm going to share my screen here. And does that work? Can everybody see that? I've got just one slide here. Thanks for having us to speak regarding the new market building. I think last time you saw me, we were talking about Water Street construction, which has yet to begin, but we'll continue to keep the community updated on that. So of course, I'm sure everybody here knows about the new market building in general, where it is. If you don't, it is on South Street in the Seaport area, adjacent to the Tin Building, adjacent to Pier 17. And it has been vacant for a number of years following the relocation of the Fulton Fish Market to Hunts Point in the Bronx. EDC manages the property on behalf of the City Department of Small Business Services, along with a number of other waterfront properties in the city and many others in the Seaport. And we have been working for several years to get the funding to do the demolition of the building. I will note that some folks here will also remember that there was a proposal by Howard Hughes to construct a residential building on that site a number of years ago. That was in accordance with an option they had on the site at the time, which has since expired. Currently the site is wholly within city control and ownership and is not encumbered by any lease or by any other agreement with another party, including Howard Hughes. We have, I believe the last time that we presented regarding the project to the community was in the form of the Seaport Working Group in February of 2020. That was, I think, one of the last meetings I went to before COVID started in person. That was at the Muni building. But at that meeting and a couple of times before that, in addition to sort of laying out the reasons for the need to demolish the building, which are as follows: the problem is not as much with the building itself as with the pier and platform that it sits on. So the platform and pier are generally not structurally sound, and it's a dangerous site from that perspective. So we looked at options for restoring it and saving it, but they're the piles on the water are just so deteriorated that there's not really anything else we can do other than demolish it. So in addition to having that conversation a number of times in the community over the last few years, we also shared at the Seaport Working Group in February of last year that we were looking for money at the time from the city to complete the demolition project. So because of that instability of the platform, it's actually very difficult, if not impossible and unadvisable, to have the equipment needed for demolition out on the platform. So it's quite a complex site because we're going to be demolishing it from the water, from a barge, and taking a lot of the debris away that way. So because of those complex site conditions, we were in need of getting additional funding from the city to do that work. So we just got the approval to, and sort of the funding pathway forward in February of this year, which was, I guess, about 2 months ago. There was obviously an incident that happened at the New Market building that we are all very saddened by, and it's very unfortunate that happened. I think we moved quickly, especially having gotten the funding approval just in advance of that, to install the construction fence and really get to work. So what James from the Hunter Roberts Construction Group is going to walk through is this general schedule here. He might add a little bit more detail, but generally we expect the work to take up to a year, maybe more like 10 months. But the scope generally includes preparation of the site, abatement, since it's an old building, of course, wanted to make sure that we keep everybody safe. And then the barge will arrive for to begin the demolition work. So James, at this point, do you want to jump in and run through any sort of details, what people should expect to see on the ground and that kind of thing over the next few weeks and months?
Can everyone hear me? I just want to, how about now?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay, great. So yeah, as of right now, we've mobilized the abatement contractor. The good news is that most of the abatement has been performed prior. I mean, I think it was my first job at Hunter Roberts to abate all of the interior elements of the building. The only thing that's remaining is the lead paint that has since flaked off the walls, as well as the portions of the roof, which we can't abate without demolishing the roof, along with the transite panels. So that's going to be the lead paint is the first step in our work, and then what we're going to do is remove a couple of transite panels and build a chute system to dump the debris in two locations. One will be live loading from the Pier 17 / new tin building construction area, and then there's also going to be a barge staged on the other side of the building from the water on the north side, in order to shoot the debris out into a barge scow and dispose of it that way. Unfortunately, the way the live load on the pier itself is prohibitive of putting any kind of container trucks, etc. So we can't load it from the pier itself. We have to load it from the adjacent, from barges adjacent, as well as the Pier 17 structure. Once we get all the major debris out and start digging into the walls of the building, we're going to abate the roof as we demo the roof, and then that moves into kind of taking it down. After we abate that roof, we're going to take down the transite panels, which are the other element that are asbestos containing material, and then we start to surgically dismantle the building floor by floor. The items that are asbestos had to remain because they essentially make up the core and shell of the building. I'm sorry, the shell of the building, both the roof and the transite panels. So we could not remove those without doing a full demo at the same time. And we've received a variance from the DEP in order to do them both at the same time. Essentially, once we're finished cutting all the structural elements, and we're going to bring the building down to just the platform remaining, and then the fence will probably stay in place until we're directed to bring it down, the construction fence, just for safety's sake.
Great, thank you, James. And yeah, I think a couple things to highlight from that. The final condition of the site is, there's not a plan for what to do with the site right now, nor is there funding to construct anything there. But again, the site being wholly owned by the city, not encumbered by any lease, once the building is taken down, the platform will remain, the piles beneath the platform will remain, and that area will remain fenced off, just without the building. And James, could you talk through as well? I think we said, I would just to walk through as best as we can when people will begin to see more and more activity on site. I think we said the barge would be arriving sometime in May. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably around, let me just look at, so yeah, I mean, it may be a little later than that. We're working through the lead abatement. They've discovered a little bit more lead paint, so that may take another week or so. But I think we're looking at mid-May for the barge to start to show up on site. But everything's pretty much going to be contained within the building until we start that roof abatement, probably in August. So you'll see the barge out there. You'll see us live loading from the Pier 17 side, but you're not going to see any major demo until about August, because we're basically gutting the interior first, because we don't we want to keep it as contained as possible until the very last moment.
Great, thank you. And then one more thing, James, that if you wouldn't mind walking through really quick.
Yep.
Take questions from the committee. regarding anything regarding site safety and sort of what the process is working with DEP, particularly regarding the abatement. I just want to make sure that we're clear with everybody around the precautions that are in place for that.
Yeah, absolutely. What we have is we have a TRC, which is our asbestos consultant. They essentially drew up the plans for what the contractor has to abate. They, in addition to them overseeing the project, they also will be performing air monitoring and making sure that all of the, along with Hunter Roberts, are making sure that all of the DEP rules and regs are followed. We'll have some protection on the Pier 17 side once that's exposed, but we don't see that being exposed until we start to take down the roof. So there will be protection in place by the contractors to protect any adjacent structures, as well as the other aspect is on safety. The entrance to the site is right along the bike path there, right coming under the FDR. So we've bought in the contract, a flagman to make sure that everyone is safe if they're pulling in any kind of equipment or anything like that. While it is going to be minimal based on the live load of the structure, there will be some comings and goings by trucks and vehicles. So we'll ensure that that's and if we feel that it's a heavy day, we can temporarily reroute bike path just to keep everybody out of harm's way, pedestrians as well as bikers.
Good.
Great. Thank you, James.
Sure.
Ready for your questions now.
So I just want to ask James, it's Pat. So when you say, so right now it's all interior, but what exactly is being done to protect the public? What exactly are they doing inside so nothing gets from the inside to the outside?
The reason why we're waiting to take down the transite panels on the side is that they essentially form a barrier for any debris or anything to get out of the building until the last possible moment, and we start to structurally take down. Once the building is clean and there's no debris that can escape, essentially, that's when we start to remove the side panels so that it's no longer encapsulated.
But I guess what I'm asking is, all right, so you're inside and
right.
All the doors are closed and the roof is on, but when you open doors or when whatever's inside, all the lead paint and everything is actually taken out of the structure, how do you keep it from getting to the general public?
The contractor by law must contain and have proper containers to put all of that lead paint debris in. I mean, whether it's 55-gallon drums or specially designed containers as per DEP regulations, that nothing is just let to leak out into the public. In addition, there really isn't any other way other than the almost the front door, so to speak. We've put up Q decking along each of the bays, if you're familiar with the building. So it's not just a grate. It's a fully encapsulated steel deck that's in front of each of the bays, minus one that is kind of the front door. And when they're really getting hot and heavy, they'll you walk in there now, it looks like plastic is up and we've got everything contained, and it's not just willy-nilly holes in the walls. It's we keep that building contained based on all DEP regulations.
And then my last question is, when the barge arrives, are we going to have, I mean, it's pretty much away from residents, it's on the water, but are we going to have, is the barge going to have a motor that runs all the time? Is it
no, not at all. I mean, there will be during working hours, there will be an excavator. So it's essentially two barges. One is a deck barge with an excavator sitting on it, that as the debris is shot out the chute, the excavator is going to move that debris around and level it within that hopper barge. So that would be the only motor running, on a couple of hourly basis or so. It's not going to be running all day, I don't think, because a lot of garbage needs to accumulate before they need to kind of spread it out within that hopper barge. But no, there's no motor on the barges. They're brought in by a tugboat, and what happens is it's called spudding down, where they drop some pipe that's affixed to the side of it, and that drops onto the mud line and holds that barge in place. And once it's anchored in place, it's not moving. The only thing is when we need to bring the hopper barge in and out, it's almost, you're pulling one barge out, pulling one in, and that's pretty much the extent of it. It's an hour or 2 hour process to move those barges in and out, and that's it.
So basically, we won't have a lot of noise.
No, and based on and interesting you bring that up, because based on the surgical nature of this demolition, a lot of it's being done with very small, light equipment in the building, whether it's a push behind Bobcat or something along those lines that isn't going to be exposed to the outside. You're not going to see these small machines inside the building pushing the debris around. Everything's going to be encapsulated in that building until until we get that roof abated and down.
Okay, great.
It's not your typical demolition. It's surgical. I mean, we can't just come in with a wrecking ball. We have to kind of take it floor by floor.
Okay, great. Thank you. So,
Yep.
Committee questions? Jump in.
Hi, Pat, I have a question.
Jump in.
Speaking of barges, do we know if, when, and if so, how the building was cleaned after 9/11, or might this be like a little baby Deutsche Bank situation?
That I'm not aware of. I came on to Hunter Roberts in 2015, so that was well before my time.
Is there a way that we can find out if it was clean, if the building was cleaned after 9/11, or might this be the first time that some of this stuff is being shifted around since then?
No, we did a full abatement of the interior.
You did?
Yes, prior to this, because I don't know if you missed the first part of my spiel. We've done a complete abatement on the interior. The only items that we could not abate are the panels on the outside of the building and the roof, because of the protection that gives to the weather and the elements.
Okay.
Everything else.
And James, that was done in 2018 or 2019, right?
No, I think it was more like 2016.
Oh, okay.
So it was, fairly recent. It was, yeah.
Okay. So, but it's possible that it was after 2001, there was no cleaning until 2016, and now it's being done again?
I also know, I believe, others can correct me if they know otherwise, but I believe, Mariama, the building continued to function as a fish market until 2005, I think, is when it moved. So it was not in a vacant state.
Okay. Thank you.
Paul Goldstein.
Good question.
Lucian, is Paul able to?
Should be.
Paul?
Paul, I'm going to try unmuting you. Paul?
All right, I think, is that good?
Good evening, Paul. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Okay, I tuned in a little late. Hello, Will.
Hi there.
Had a couple of questions. I'm not sure if you covered any of this, but I'll ask them. And probably a better idea would be for you to attend an upcoming waterfront meeting where we could go more into depth on some of these issues that I'm going to raise. Did you remove the piles or the pier, or are you planning to?
No, the piles and the pier are going to remain, Paul. So the building itself is all that's coming down. The piles and the pier will remain, and they'll be behind a fence following the end of construction.
Okay, and what kind of fence and what will the site look like after we're done? Obviously, that's a popular destination. It shouldn't look terrible.
Of course, James, am I correct that the hunter green construction fence is going to be what remains after, or are we?
Yeah, it's your standard DOB construction fence, with the portal windows, and then the platform should just be a flat concrete deck.
Well, a standard treatment doesn't sound great. All right, that might be something we'd want to discuss. Um, do you know that we've also heard about closure of that Jerry Driscoll walk area? And do you know how long that's going to be closed?
Yeah, so we are doing, the contractor is out there doing test pits in order to just confirm some subsurface conditions for the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade project. So as you might recall, that is going to be the sort of fill one of the last missing links in the complete Esplanade from Whitehall up to Pier 35, including turning that parking lot beneath the FDR there into public space and that kind of thing. We are still, I'm sorry, Paul, I don't have off the top of my head what the actual construction start date is anticipated for that. I want to say May, but you know, we do expect to give an update to the community board in advance of that. The construction, I know, is at least a year, but what I'm hearing from your point is that it, you know, it'll be important to figure out which portions of the waterfront are off limits, and if we can sort of allow access to the waterfront, we can.
And if you could let us know, because we got inquiries about the closure and we did not know how to answer them because we didn't hear that that area was being closed. So we understand.
I actually wrote to Diana that just as she wrote me with it, I think there was a photo or a video of some of the fencing that had gone up. I was just preparing a notice about that because I think we had to close the bike lane as well. So there was, anyway, understood.
Okay, so did I hear you say that you may start as early as May and you plan to give a report to the committee before you do that?
Yeah, I think I have a meeting on Monday or Tuesday regarding that project. So hoping to get the most up-to-date schedule information at that time. And then, you know, obviously want to make sure that we have discussed the, I want to say, Paul, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we presented that was in advance of the final PDC design approval, maybe back in 2019. Of course, this, like every other project that we had, went on hold due to COVID. So I think that's probably the last time we were at the committee.
I don't know off the top of my head when you were.
I know it was at one center in person, so it's been at least a year.
And I know we were generally pleased with most of the work, obviously looking forward to it. Okay, so we look forward to hearing more about that. And I guess the plans to replace the new market building is not determined at this stage. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yeah, at the beginning of our presentation, Paul, I just reminded everybody that Howard Hughes had previously proposed a project at that site as part of an option they had on the site. That option has since expired and they have no claim to the site now. So I just reiterated to folks that it's wholly owned by the city, unencumbered by any lease or any other sort of agreement. There, of course, is not capital funding to construct anything there, but we were lucky to finally get the funding that we needed arranged to do the demolition. So I think it'd be a great conversation to have, particularly regarding the fence. I'm not sure I'm not sure what the requirements are during construction on a construction fence, but if we're leaving that, you know, maybe there's some sort of mural or artwork or some other sort of creative way that we could make that a more attractive space in the meantime before we do have a plan and funding to implement something there.
Art competition.
Yes. I know that was for the interim flood barriers and all of that as a very nearby example.
Right, I was just going to say, it's already been done there.
I think that's where we met the day that they previewed those.
Oh, okay. Your memory is better than mine, which I'm glad. All right, I'll leave it at that. And again, hopefully you can make it to an upcoming meeting where we could have a little more in depth about the future of this general area.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see you. I know that I know the Seaport Coalition has a plan that includes, you know, discussion of what should happen at that site, et cetera. So certainly happy to continue that conversation.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Paul. Betty and Bob.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Betty.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, you'd mentioned about having to move the pedestrians and the cyclists to another route during some periods when some of the work of loading and unloading may be crossing their path. Because of transportation, and especially since they're doing the Brooklyn Bridge, where they're going to be putting in the bicycle lanes, we expect it to be much more popular for cyclists. And I know a number of them from Videye area are looking to use that very path for commuting. So is there any idea of how much of the time it will be blocked? And could any of it be done in the evening to maybe prevent some of the cyclists being?
That's a great question. James, I'll kick that one to you in terms of how often there is a need to shift from a flagger intermittent to a full closure.
Yeah, I mean, we don't anticipate it being, more than a day or a couple of days at a clip. I don't think it's going to be extensive. We're just talking about if there's a heavy, if we're loading out a lot of debris one day, we may just reroute bikers for that day, and not maybe once a month or so. I don't think it's going to be very extensive.
And James, does that include pedestrians as well?
Yeah, we want to make sure that nobody, a rogue biker doesn't come come by during our loadout.
That's understandable, but if you're talking about rerouting versus flagging, where are you looking to reroute them to? How far out of the way, or where would they be going?
So as of right now, we've got, there's the whole area under the FDR that we've just recently cleared out of all the cars that are, we cleared my other project team for the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade cleared that whole Esplanade underneath the FDR. So that gives us a plenty of room to kind of to bring them right across that rather than adjacent to the fence. If you're familiar with what I'm talking about, rather than the area up on the right adjacent to the fence, we would just simply move them down closer to South Street, but not in South Street by any stretch.
I can see Justine having a fit right now over this, because yes, Transportation Committee would like to hear more, because I know the cyclists will be very interested in knowing how it's going to affect their commutes.
Right, and Betty, I think, of course, I think the to have that one very small missing link in terms of the complete Esplanade to the north and the south, of course, is an existing challenge. So we hope to not make that any. James, I'm glad that James mentioned that there is now enough space at the site to at least have a temporary path that is not, not going to put people in the street. But yeah, as we know more on that, and then I think also in regard to the reminding everybody about the design for Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade, that would be a good thing for us to mention.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
You say something, Bob? So Will and James, about relocating the bicyclists, is it somehow, I mean, would it be you arrive there that morning and decide that morning, or can they get some notice? Would they?
Oh, absolutely. We
take that path.
We'd have plenty of notice. I mean, we'd know far ahead of time of heavy days of loading out. We'll monitor the debris piles in the building and say, okay, we got to have a heavy load out day, and maybe we'll do it next Wednesday. Whatever. It's not gonna. We're not gonna just willy nilly move the bike path.
And then, as somebody on site, would you be like, there would be you're coming from the north or from the south, and you would arrive at the point and see a sign, presumably, where to go and all that. So
right, we'd certainly put up signage, and we also arranged to have. I mean, once we cleared out all those cars for the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade project, we put up the NYPD barriers essentially along the whole stretch there in front of the Newmarket building, so that no one could park there. And I would imagine that we would just reroute it just within that barrier, so that you could almost see it from one end to the other. It's such a short run that we would just make them take a quick right and then go along the underneath the FDR, so that they're out of harm's way.
It's nothing like they need to go across town and bike.
Oh, absolutely not. It's just a matter of taking a quick right and then shooting down past and then end up at the bottom corner of the tin building there, and
Gotcha.
and just keep going. It's not, we're not talking about rerouting, up, Beekman or anything along those lines. It's just a matter
Right,
of,
it's just 10 or 20 or 30 yards, right?
yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a couple of feet to the right as they make their way
Oh.
down the Esplanade.
Okay, that's not major.
Yeah. And that just allows us to pull those trucks out of that. If there's a blind spot, it just
Right.
allows us to pull those trucks out, safer.
Okay, Bob.
Could we have Justine looked like she was upset, so could we just have Justine next?
Bob, thank you. No, I appreciate that. If that's okay with you, I got a bunch of questions
Absolutely.
for James and for Will then. So I just rode my bike, my city bike, up the east side yesterday, 2 days ago, Tuesday. And you get to exactly at the Tin Building, and you're correct. I'm assuming what you're talking about with the car. I don't even know what the heck you're talking about with the cars, but it's a basically relatively passable route. Parts of it are lovely, and parts of it are just basically passable. And then you get to the fish market building in that area where I apologize for not having better schematics, but you kind of you have to go in like this, go in like that, and go in like this. First of all, the ground itself is so dangerous right now. And if you're doing construction, is there any way to just pave in the holes? There are huge holes there. So step one is right now what's happening is insane. Step two is north of there, which I don't know it interferes with you or has any reflection on what your guys are doing, but there are so many days, because I've done this before, riding uptown, commuting to someplace along that path, where they just closed the bike path. And when you say about going onto the Esplanade, no, there's no place to go. It is closed. They don't tell you where to go. There is no place to go. And then if you do maybe spend 10 minutes looking for a place to go that's a sign that's not the street, what you find is you've got to go up to First Avenue, which is far down there, and go back and back and around. And it takes what can be a relatively safe, to me, being on the bike path is safer than being in the street, safe commuting path and route on the east side from downtown to uptown. It makes it so impossible. I don't know how much what you were talking about will affect what goes on a little bit north of you, and how much what you're talking about is present now. But I can tell you it is not passable safely now in so many places. Have you guys been there and looked at it? That's one
Okay, so just
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Will.
yeah. So when we're actually going back to the office a couple days a week, and I'm on Liberty Street, so I go through that on my commute as well. And yeah, it's bumpy back there for sure. I think the part that you're talking about as you pass the Tin Building, and then there's that sharp right, sharp left, sharp left, sharp right. That is, that's the temporary condition. We're hopefully going to be able to sort a lot of that out with the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade project, which will, basically add the bike lane north of the New Market Building to that long strip that goes all the way up to like Pier 35 and beyond. Justine, I wanted to ask
that
you,
would be lovely. But
when you
what's
mentioned
the time frame on that, Will?
we're hoping to begin construction on that by like late spring, early summer.
So which means the whole bike path will be out of use for how long?
Well, actually, luckily, so James's group is actually managing both the New Market Building and that site. So James, do you, I know we're still working on timeline for BBE, but is there any detail you want to add there?
Yeah, I think the idea here is we're still trying to get our ducks in a row as far as what our scope is, and once we find that out, we'll have the schedule. I'm sure I'll be back here discussing that. And I know exactly what, Justine, I know exactly what corner you're talking about. It's around that old parking shanty.
It's right in front of it's right in front of the Fulton Fish Market, where you guys have put up the fences now, where Rosalie Garcia was sadly murdered there.
Right. I just want to be clear. The Tin Building
is south of that, right?
Is not our scope. That's not our scope. Kind of starts as you round that corner and go up to where the New Market Building is. That's where our scope is. That's where Plaza stops and where we start.
And I'll see if I can get a map for
Yeah, that would be helpful, because I don't know what the New
Yep.
Market building is then. I'm thinking you're talking about the building where Rosalie Garcia was murdered, correct?
That's correct.
There's the tin building. Once Howard Hughes finishes the tin building, then that section will be complete. The New Market building, aka the old fish market, which we're demolishing, that's under EDC jurisdiction. And then just north of there, we're building a different Esplanade under a different project. So Justine,
Got it.
in the full closure, could you just repeat where that was?
It's not constantly a full closure. So I've been up and down the path, like I said, most recently Tuesday, but before that, probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks before. And on any given, well, to be fair, I don't do it every day, but on occasion, since January, I've done it. And they'll just close it off. I want to say that it's going to be as you're approaching Stuytown, which is way up north.
Okay, got it.
That's way beyond. But and then that's why I think I was freaking out when Betty was talking, and then I realized, wait, it's not fair because the parking lots and the cars where I'm thinking of is farther north. And yeah, there are a lot of cars there, and there's no place to go, and the only place to go is the sidewalk because when they close it. So yeah. So to be fair, I'm scaling back my frustration because you're focused on a certain area.
Okay. But I just happen to know that up there, that's the most likely the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, which is in Community Districts 3 and 6. Because I know there's a lot of construction there and reroutes onto First Avenue and all that.
Yes, it goes all the way around, and people don't go to First Avenue. So everybody's in the street, and bikers are on the street, and it's very dangerous. So if there's something, I don't know what you can do. I know it's beyond the purview of this conversation that you're presenting today, but look at it as with all the construction, you're hearing it from me. I'm speaking for my neighbors north of me.
There's a lot of work going on.
Holistically, people are not going to ride for 3 blocks. They're going to ride for 3 miles. So that's what I would say. And then another question, just quick, and I'm sorry, Bob, to take too long, about the fences and the safety. So with Rosalie Garcia having been murdered there and people having broken in before the fences were put up, what security is there now to prevent anybody from entering the site for good intentions, bad intentions, whatever the heck?
Right. So previously, like James mentioned, there's a number of bays or loading docks on the front of the building. A few years ago, I forget when, but I think a few years ago we sealed all but one of those, like basically tight up with this metal cladding, leaving one entrance for the for our facility folks to be able to get in and out. So that was added previously. Since the incident, I know that we've been coordinating a lot with the police department. I know there's light towers and I believe twice daily patrols of the site.
Okay.
And, there's now the new construction fence is up, and obviously the site's going to be more active, as we go along here.
Yeah, what we do is we sweep the building every morning before we allow the contractors in with a security firm, so that we know
that seems sensible. So at least that there's some level of safety for people.
And then what we're also trying to do, Justine, is extend. We're still kicking it around and we're seeing if it works on a logistical and cost level. We're actually thinking about doing double shifts, so that we're basically there from 7 a.m. to possibly a 10 at night situation, working inside the building. Like I said before, there won't be motors running or anything along those lines, but just so that there's boots on the ground and it's a definite deterrent to anyone entering the building, and then we'll perform another sweep at 6:30 a.m. before the contractors start up again.
That sounds promising to me. That seems reasonable. Thank you.
That's our hope, and if we can make it work, we will. But that's in the plan. Either way, I think what we're going to try and do is have security there when the contractors aren't, essentially.
Or not. Right.
Right.
You figure when the contractors are there, there's people eyes on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Are there cameras there, or there's no cameras? I didn't notice any.
There are cameras at the adjacent Pier 17 site, which kind of blanket one side of the building, but other than that, I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice any either. Okay, thank you, Bob, for letting me speak. Appreciate it. And
Bob, and then Rosa.
Great, and Bob, I just want to share really quick. I'm going to need to jump out probably just about 7:30 for another community board meeting, so just wanted to make sure to share that in advance. But anyway, go ahead.
I just, Will, when you were speaking, you said that what's going to happen is after the demolition, there was weakness in the platform, and so the platform really wasn't useful for much else. So I have two kinds of concerns. One is kind of how long is it going to stay in the incomplete situation in the best and the worst case? Can it stay like that for years and years like the old parking lot has? And my other question is, what uses are even possible? Is it possible to turn that into some kind of park? Could you play basketball on top of it? Is it, does it have some kind? I mean, we're desperate for park space and for even just a place for old people to sit and just enjoy.
Of course,
nice.
You've got some
so
iconic
I was wondering about alternative uses and just not having a fence, kind of a nasty looking industrial fence there.
Right.
Even if we put some art on it,
Right. Of course, that's only a temporary solution. Of course.
Right. It would be nice if we could put it into use. And what are the possible uses so you can get thinking? Of course.
No, that's great. It's a great question. I think it's spot on, and to Paul's point as well. It is a city-owned site. I would say we frankly had difficulty securing the funding just to do the demolition of the building. The demolition of the platform and the piers below it would also be costly and expensive. In-water construction is difficult and expensive. But I would say once you remove the piles, remove a dock, it's hard to build a new one from a permitting perspective versus replacing an existing one. So in order to potentially secure that location for such a potential use, like you mentioned, that's sort of part of the thought is that it's much easier to secure permits and the ability to reconstruct an existing pier than to build a new one from scratch. So obviously that's not a condition that we want to leave it in forever, but on top of the cost that it would take to demolish the platform and all those piles there. We would also like for it to be flexible for a future potential use. And again, there's no funding identified for that, but I think we are interested in hearing from the community what they're interested in seeing. Like I mentioned, I know I've seen this. There's a Seaport Coalition master plan out there that marks that site as a community space. Just a couple levels with a variety of facilities. There's a lot that could be done there. So in-water construction is really expensive. So we do need a significant amount of money to do that, but want to leave the site flexible, while of course understanding that we don't want to leave it like that forever.
Well, I was just thinking of very, very simple minimalist things like a few benches and in a walkway and some planters in the most minimal case, and then the next case would be a couple of basketball courts that kids could play on. Just very simple things that aren't that expensive and that are just doable.
Right, and I think unfortunately, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, Bob, that the platform is not stable enough today because of the piles beneath it to allow any live loads on that in good conscience. So, it's going to stay for all those reasons, but we wouldn't be able to activate it, even in a temporary way due to the structural concerns.
Yeah, if I can just jump in, the idea here is that the reason why we're taking down the building is due to the undermining of the platform. I think once that building is removed, I think a structural analysis would need to be performed now that this huge load is off the building, and to see exactly what the capacities are in order to better plan for what any future work.
That's a good point, James. So maybe it's worth another survey and another look back once this project is complete.
Yeah, I think I would recommend that once we get everything down and the dust settles, so to speak. That would be the first course of action to see what the platform that's there now can actually take.
Okay.
All right, so we'll circle back to that once we get to that. Right now we have Rosa and Michael Francoeur.
Hi, thank you, Will and James.
Rosa.
So I just want to chime in, I think, on Betty's comments and Justine's comments. I was at Jerry Driscoll Walk about 2 weeks ago, and I believe that's the area that they're discussing, which is that the interesting experience I had was that because the area was all closed and fenced off, and I understand that you're doing test pits and stuff, but nobody had made any allowance for pedestrians, as they basically fenced off the entire thing. So they fenced it off right to the bike lane. And so all the pedestrians basically had to go around the entire fencing in the bike lane with the bicyclists who got super annoyed with the pedestrians, very reasonably so. And so just wanted to make you aware that there's that sort of, passage conflict. And I hope it's not still there, but I suspect it probably is. So just wanted to put that on your radar, as I think that might need to be addressed, preferably sooner rather than later. And then the whole discussion about the piles and the platform sort of begs the question of where are we on the coastal resiliency plan? Because obviously that is all tied up together. And, the cost obviously of replacing or rebuilding the platform and the piles is obviously a consideration in relation to wherever or however the coastal resiliency plan works, I'm guessing.
Right, absolutely. So those are great questions. James, do you mind, can I just say that, can we take that back to the BBE site team and allow as much space as we can over there? I'm not sure if the test pits are continuing.
I think they're about 75% done now. That was my last update from my PM, that they were almost done. So once those are finished, I think it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, got it. And then Rosa, it's a great question. I mean, that's obviously one of the biggest constraints, and I know you're pretty familiar with the project, with the Financial District and Seaport Climate Resilience Master Plan. Is of course you have buildings right up to the water on the land side, both in the Seaport and the financial districts, but you also have all those in-water assets such as Pier 17, Pier 11 with the ferries. You've got Whitehall Terminal. So how do you protect a structure that is in the water from rising water, right? And I think that's one of the big things that we're looking at. So of course, in terms of doing existing conditions analyses, we've had our consultant teams on site on the Howard Hughes properties, the Howard Hughes leased properties, and then also down at Whitehall Battery Maritime Building and Pier 11. But I think over the next month or so, hopefully, as we begin rolling out kind of some preliminary options to discuss with the public, I hope that that'll sort of give a better sense of how we might be able to treat some of that. But of course, talking about how to use a waterfront city-owned site in the same place you're doing a resiliency project, obviously those conversations have to be coordinated. So it's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks. That's it, Rosa?
Thank you.
Michael?
Hey, Pat. Thanks, Will. Thanks, James. It's great to get an update on this project. I have a question. Again, I apologize in advance. It's a little out of the purview of this discussion, but there's another EDC, I believe it's EDC, controlled empty lot at the corner of John Street and South Street, so right behind Imagination Playground. And I think it's being used mostly as like a parking lot for city agencies right now. I know it's actually, so it's the site of the proposed new building for the South Street Seaport.
Of course.
But I think even under the most optimistic timeline for that, I think that's going to remain empty for at least several years. And the fencing there, it's surrounded by mesh blue fencing. And over the winter, what seems to have happened is someone, maybe a truck in there, backed up into one of the poles. And so it's now starting to angle. It's starting to come towards the sidewalk. And I was wondering if that's something that you guys have control over, that fence, and if that's something you might be able to address. I'm making the request as a neighbor, but I do know that I'm a member of the CSA at the Fulton Stall Market, which is, right next door, and I know that that's something they've been trying to get in touch with you about. So just wanted to bring that up.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, so I do believe EDC controls that lot, and that is just the right amount of information and specificity that I can tell the right people and hopefully get that taken care of. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Will.
Lucian, do we have anyone from the public that had any questions?
I believe we do. We have Taylor Banning and Caitlyn Dooley.
And just everyone remember, we have 10 minutes. Because Will has to leave.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and unmute Taylor. Taylor, you're unmuted.
Hi, good evening.
Taylor.
This is Taylor. Hi.
Hi,
Good
how are
evening.
you?
Good. How are you? I'm a
Good, thanks.
resident of Battery Park City. I was raised here, and I guess I just wanted to talk about that photo. I guess the incident that you mentioned, and I guess the victim of that incident, Rosalie. I think Sanchez. And just say that, you know, I'm really sad and upset about what happened to her. She was just a child. She's actually my sister's age, so it's like particularly heartbreaking and upsetting. And I know that she was loved by her family. And as we talk about all this, you know, I just can't not say her name and talk about it and the pain and sadness around her murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate you saying that.
Taylor. Lucian, who was next?
Next, we have Caitlyn Dooley. Caitlyn, you are unmuted.
Thank you, Lucian. Thank you, Pat, and those of you here. My name's Caitlyn Dooley, and I'm a member of the public. And like Taylor, I'm here to speak to the loss of Rosalie Sanchez. And I also wanted to ask if, Will, if you would be willing, or whoever we could be in contact with, we could connect regarding a potential memorial or some type of use of space for Rosalie. We are, a group of us are in close contact now with her family, and we'd like to discuss that further because we don't want her life to be forgotten, and we certainly want her to be remembered, especially so soon after her death, because she was just murdered there a few weeks ago. So if that would be a possibility, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
That's a good idea. Sorry.
Adrian, just like Taylor mentioned, it's very moving that both of you took the time to attend tonight and to share those thoughts. So thank you for doing that. Obviously, this is just, it's just a horrendous thing that happened, and I, appreciate you taking the time to specifically call that out. Caitlin, I'm going to put my, or Lucian, you're able to distribute my, or I can just, well, I'll share my email and we can be in touch.
Great. And when we have that art project, maybe that's can be incorporated. The memorial can be
Point, Pat. Will, you want me to put your email on the chat?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public? Will has to go in about 5 minutes. Anyone else from the committee? Nope. Done. Lucian? Is that Lucian?
Yeah, I don't see anyone else.
Okay. All right. So, Will and James, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to come and discuss this with us. We appreciate it. I'm sure you'll keep us updated. We'll hear more.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy and
get. You also stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so going to move on.
Much.
Do we have everyone here representing DDC?
Oh yeah, and how? We always have a lot of friends from DDC. I'm gonna start pulling them over. Let's see. I see Sonia. Sonia, I'm just gonna unmute you because you're on the phone. Just keep your phone muted if you would. Mr. Lau. Centeno. Let's see. I think I saw Marlene earlier. There's Marlene. And then as you all move over, you just tell me who else I should be pulling over, okay? Maria and Marlene? Who am I missing?
I believe a Walkman is on. Walkman.
Walkman's there. I miss Walkman. Let me see. Maybe Walkman's joining us by phone. Let me check the phone.
We
Hold
also
on.
have
Yeah.
Hervé Mathelier. He's
Yes.
from DDC.
Okay.
We have Liz Baptiste, who's the
There's
sociologist.
Liz. Yep. I totally miss Liz.
Yes. Let's see. Mohammed Haq.
Yes.
Fahad Mir.
Okay, Mohammed, I can't move you over for some reason, so I'm just going to unmute you. So you have to just manage your mute button yourself, okay? Mohammed, if you would mute yourself, if I mute you, you won't be able to unmute yourself. Okay.
Fahad Mir.
And then who else?
Fahad Mir.
Yep. Fahad Mir. Okay, no problem. And then
Trying to let's see.
let me check the callers really quick. Hi, phone number 347-840. You're unmuted. Who do we have here?
This is Alexander from DDC.
Oh, hi, Alexander. So I'm going to leave you unmuted if you just mute yourself from your phone. That way you can control your unmuting. Thank you. And then another phone caller at 917-417. I'm unmuting you. Hello, who do we have here? Hello?
Hello, Walkman Wong.
Hi, Walkman. There you are. Okay. So if you would just mute yourself from your own phone, and then you can unmute yourself at will. Should the
No
need
problem.
arise.
Thank you.
Nice to hear from you. Okay. Well, with that, Pat.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
We also have Alexander Rajic.
Okay. Alexander, I'm not seeing any sound options for Alexander. Alexander, you may need to fiddle with your settings or log back in because I don't have any way to have your sound come in. The unmute button doesn't even show up for you. It's grayed out. So that usually means that either your internet audio or phone audio is not connected. You might want to check under the audio and video menu if you're using the software to connect your audio. Anyone
No
else?
audio I'm using on my phone.
Was that you, Alexander?
Yes. I'm watching the presentation, but I'm on audio through my phone.
Oh, I got it. Perfect. You're the DDC person on the phone. Okay. Well, then we should be good to go, Marlene. That's everyone, right?
I believe we have Mohammed Haq as well.
Oh yeah. I try to unmute Mohammed. Mohammed, I am muting you right now. You just have to manage your own microphone on your end, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We always appreciate it. Marilyn, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. We are here with several project representatives as well as members of our DDC design team and DOT to speak a little bit about the Greenwich Street project. So I'm not sure if you guys would like us to start with that first.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear which project?
The Greenwich Street project, the upcoming reconstruction projects for Greenwich. Can we start with that one?
Frankie Lau.
Okay, so Hervé, if you'd like to speak on that, and Frankie Lau as well.
Does anyone have any slides that they're presenting on this?
I can forward the presentation to you now, actually, if you'd like.
Okay, and I'll put them up on the screen.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. This is Frankie Lau with the
Good evening.
Hi, Pat. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm here to speak about, including Front Street, the upcoming reconstruction of Greenwich Street project. I'll be the construction EIC for that project. So you get to deal with me again.
Good.
So just a brief, last meeting we briefly spoke about that project. Just to give you guys a little update. That project starts at Barclay and it goes north up to Chambers, but it bypasses the Warren Street intersection, right? The scope of work includes full depth roadway reconstruction, new curbs and sidewalks. They're bumping out the curb on that first block on Barclay to match on the west side to match the sidewalks north of that. So in doing that, they would relocate the existing 20-inch sewer that's pretty much under the sidewalk now, and they're going to relocate that into the middle of the road. So all of that gets done under this project. All the ped ramps will be all ADA compliant when we're done. There'd be street lights and traffic signal upgrades, new catch basins, sewer manholes, catch basin suits. So we're pretty much redoing, we're pretty much rebuilding the whole stretch. You know, pretty much left off by when Chambers Street was complete and right outside the WTC site. As of now, I mean, I know that last meeting you guys also had some questions about the upcoming back in New York work. You know, I know design could probably speak more to it. I know they've been coordinating as usual, ongoing coordination with City DOT and DDC Design. So I'm not sure if design wants to speak in or add anything to that.
Before the jump on, Frankie. So what's the span of time involved?
Okay, so the project it's going out to award, right? So from my understanding, we're looking at late this year, start of construction early next year, depending on time frame of when it gets awarded and when the contractor is ready to start. And it's a 3-year project.
Okay. 3 years.
So depending on when we start, if we're starting October, you're looking at October of 24. If it pushes out to spring, it'll be 3 years from there. But as of right now, that's the construction schedule.
And do you kind of have an idea of how will you control the traffic? What will you do to like stop, block a lane and work on the other lanes, or
yeah, I mean, it's all pretty much we're maintaining traffic. There's no full road closures. There will always be maintained traffic at all times. The sidewalk will be maintained. There'll be access for pedestrians and I guess the stakeholders. They'll have access to their stores. So and then the project team will be assembled and we'll coordinate all of that. And if there was ever an issue, we'll figure it out and make sure everybody is in good shape.
Right. There'll be Liz will be involved in coordinating with all of the businesses and residents.
Right now they don't have a team.
It would be a different CCL most likely.
Yeah, they don't have a team right now. There's still that portion of the project is still pending. So once we hear more, we could give you a heads up on who you'll be dealing with.
Right. If design wants to jump in and fill in anything else.
Yes, I mean this is Hervé, I'm the director of design. Yes, to answer your question, we have been in serious coordination with the Bank of New York with the help of New York City DOT. We have made a lot of provision in the contract to allow the work because they're going to put some barrels that are very sophisticated. There is a main utility line on the sidewalk that will have to be relocated. So we had a meeting the other day to turn over to construction. Construction will sit down with them. They will have the schedule and they will work the schedule together. There are enough provision on the contract to cover any type of event. Right now, if they finish before us, they need us to put the curb first. So we put the curb, put the temporary asphalt, and let them do the work and come back and finish it. It depends on exactly where they are, how soon they're moving. So the provision are made in the contract, and construction will have to sit down with them and then work out the details.
Great. Okay.
Pat, I have just 2 questions related to this project.
Okay.
The Greenwich Street, I believe, I can't remember where the distinctive sidewalk ends, and it may be over by the time you get to Chambers Street. Jennifer Leung may remember there's distinctive sidewalk treatment along Greenwich Street. Do you remember if it ends before Chambers Street, before Greenwich gets to Chambers?
Are you talking about the landmark gray?
There's a distinctive sidewalk design that EDC put in probably over a decade ago along Greenwich Street, but I know it's present in the north, and I don't believe it gets all the way down there, but I just wanted to make sure that there's no distinctive sidewalk that needs to be replicated as part of this project.
No, we're putting the limbo, I mean, there's the limbo grade, I think on the first block, that's it. We
Okay.
cannot, nothing
Okay.
else.
Okay, good. And the second thing is you know, the CB1 actually issued a resolution commending Marcia Guido for her work at Hudson, not Hudson Square, but the project on Chambers and Hudson Street.
Bogardus.
Bogardus.
Bogardus
Thank
Plaza.
you. Yeah. So you know, we have a very good relationship with Marcia Guido, so please consider her when you're getting CCLs.
Thank you, Lucian. Thank you for the insight. Thank you.
I got Pat.
Okay, should we do questions project by project, or would you like, everyone would like to present and then get the questions later? I'm leaving it up to you, members of DDC.
No, I
Sure,
mean,
if anyone has
if you have questions for us,
Greenwich, we can take those now.
Okay, so anyone? Committee? I can't see.
Rosa
so
has her hand up.
Hi, this is Rosa. Hi, guys. Lucian, to answer your question, I think if you were talking about the same thing, I think it starts north of Chambers, if that helps at all. I think it starts at Washington Market Park on the corner, and then goes north from there. Yeah, there's
it starts at Washington, goes north from there. Okay, good. I just want to make sure that that wasn't getting eliminated.
Okay. And then this one, I don't actually know who can answer this question for me, but where did the bank's application end up, or how did that situation end up related to both the sidewalk work that they were going to do on the exterior of the building and then also the interior pop? Does anybody know?
Well, I don't think DDC knows or has information about their interior item, but for the revocable consent, which is necessary for the installation of the bollards, the status of that. Betty, do you recall? Did we comment on the bollards for revocable consent out of transportation?
It has not come before transportation yet.
Okay.
But you can ask Jen Lung is here.
Jen, are you there? Are you?
Not hearing.
Lucian, I think I don't think she's able to speak. I think there's some issues with her computer, but she is on the meeting.
Yeah, I saw her unmute herself, but she may be having issues. Jen, you may want to try calling in from your.
I see her name.
Yeah, well, she's definitely on.
Yeah, and she's got a green mic, but.
Yeah, she's chatting me right now, saying she's trying to speak.
All right, so do we want to come back and we'll keep going and with Jen?
Actually, one other quick question regarding the bollards specifically on the northeast side of this property, of the bank's property, is we had also discussed how the bollards might make it difficult, if not impossible, for the existing food vendors that park along those sidewalks to actually utilize that space anymore. And I don't know if that was resolved either from that last discussion.
Nothing has been done with the right of way.
Yeah, so that would definitely be something that has to be handled in the transportation committee when they review the revocable consent, because that's precisely the same issue that came up with 140 Broadway, where they had to go back to the drawing board and work it out with the vendors of how they're going to preserve their livelihood.
Right. Okay, perfect.
Despite the bollards. Or in that case, it was street furniture. But the bollards may be a tougher nut to crack, since, you know, by design, they're trying to prevent a vehicle from going up on the sidewalk, and many of the carts that vendors use require a vehicle to back them onto the curb. So it may be you know, much more difficult.
Right.
Cora was trying to communicate you, Cora. So I'm sorry, Cora, you can't get on. Is that the problem?
Of course, I'm muted now.
Cora there?
Can you? Oh.
Yeah, you're unmuted, Cora.
Hi, it's Cora here from Council Member's Office. Am I heard?
Yeah, hi, Cora.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't send the question to Lucian as he instructed. So I just want to know, because there are residential buildings over there and people live there on Greenwich both sides, especially 101, 100 Barclay Street is a residential building and it's right opposite from 101 Barclay, and it's between West and Greenwich, for those if you are not aware of where this building is. So I want to ask DDC, or maybe we can connect to after. I just want to make sure those residential buildings, they are being notified that there's work ahead. Who is going to outreach to these buildings, or their condo board or co-op board, or couple buildings, they are not big buildings, but they are old buildings, as you know, those buildings in Tribeca. So that's my question.
Sure. So
This
this
is
project will
Walkman.
be, sure, Walkman, go ahead.
I'm just saying that when the project starts up, we'll have a CCL on the project, and she'll be notifying, do all the notifications to all the residents that are going to be affected on the project. So what they'll do is they'll go out and meet with everybody and get their contact information, and they'll keep in contact with them as the project goes on.
Since we know now that you're going to move ahead, is there any way we could just let people know that these projects are coming? The city is working, on this big project. We're rolling out
Sure,
by
Cora. We can talk offline, and if you have contacts for those buildings in particular, I can take them from you, and I can always reach out, let them know this project is coming, and give them a rough estimate as to the timeline.
Because
This is
the
Marlene.
common complaints is always like, we didn't know sooner or earlier. Not that they need to know so soon, but then I think it's good that they have an idea, this holistic idea, that the project is coming. It's coming. 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, so they can prepare whatever they want to do. So if I couldn't send anything through this thing, so if Lucian can help put my contact over there and someone can reach out to me directly, that will be very helpful. And then we can talk offline. Yeah.
Thank
next
you,
week.
Cora. I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Pat.
So next project, or any other questions about Greenwich? Oh, okay.
All right. In that case, if you're done, can we? Okay.
Yes,
more
thank
questions
you,
for
Hervé.
DDC?
Thank you for joining us.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Frankie, since we have you here, would you like to provide any updates on Front Street?
Sure. So Front Street is still status quo. We're still tracking June of 22, 23 to be done. Right. We're a little bit past the intersection of Front and Wall, and we're still doing utility work. Right. The plan has been and always has been to start at Oslip, moving north, get the utility work out of the way. Unfortunately, we're encountered mass utility interference, right? There's steam, there's condensate gas, electric, there's we're progressing. And we'll go back and start doing the trolley work, and then the catch basins, and then the roadway reconstruction, and try to get out as soon as possible.
Good. All right, so you'll keep us updated whether 2023 is still the completion deadline or not.
Yes, I'm sorry, 2022. I don't know why I got 23, but yeah, I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, thank you. But before you move on to the next, any questions about Front Street? Okay, good. Committee, any questions about Front Street? Nope. Okay. Let's move to the next project.
Thank you, Frankie. Walkman, are there any updates for Vestry Street as well as Worth Street that you'd like to share?
Okay, let's start with Vestry. Basically, they are waiting for to get a subcontractor to do the cobblestone work on Vestry, which they can't do at this point until everything warms up pretty nicely. Plus, they are looking for a subcontractor at this point. They don't have a sub yet. Also, we have a little change order work where DEP requested that we fill in these large sewers that were abandoned on our street, and it wasn't part of our contract. So it's change order work, which means that the contractor can't really do the work until we get the money online. Nowadays, during COVID, there's no money to be found, so it takes a really long time to get change orders approved nowadays. So once that gets approved, he'll do that work, and then we'll go on to the cobblestone to finalize the project. So right now,
Before you go to Worth Street, oh, I'm sorry, you finished with Vestry?
yeah, pretty much that's it.
Okay, so hold on one second now. Is Mark Amoruso on? Mark, are you here?
I don't believe so. Let me check the attendees in case he signed on later.
Because I know Mark would want to ask about the cobblestones.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen Mark tonight.
Okay, so I hope we're not going to use the same contractor to do the cobblestones that they used up in Tribeca, and the cobblestones came up within like 5 years after they were laid. You know all about that, right?
You talking about in meatpacking area?
No.
Or
Tribeca.
Tribeca? Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of streets in Tribeca that are the cobblestone work is pretty bad, and people have gotten hurt crossing the street.
Gentlemen really got hurt very badly.
Yeah.
I've driven on a few of them, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, looks like the surface of the moon. One of the streets looks like the surface of the moon.
They're coming up. They didn't remain flat. They were like changing position, and it was only about 3 to 5 years after they were laid, something like that. So just make sure, please. It's a good contractor, and they know what they're doing. And I know there was some technical issue that
he's still looking for a subcontractor to do the cobblestones on Vestry at this time. So until he gets a subcontractor approved and selected and approved, then we can talk to them and make sure that everything's kosher. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now we're on to Worth Street.
Okay, Worth Street. We've on basically Church is our big deal. Church and Worth Street intersection. We've gotten the gas main and the steam main relocated, but now the existing steam main that we left in place, because we moved the steam main vertically and horizontally to the west, closer to the west side of Church. So the existing steam main is still in the ground, and it still has asbestos on it. So we still have to, Con Ed has to bring the specialty crews in to mitigate the asbestos on the pipe, and that's usually a slow process. Then get rid of the pipe because it's still in the way of our new water main, our trunk water main. So the new mains are in, it's just that we got to remove the old one now because that's still in our way. After that, we'll be moving towards the center of the intersection of Worth and Church because we can't shut down traffic. So we're finishing, once we finish the west side, then we'll go to the middle and have traffic around both sides, and then we'll go to the east side and then have all the traffic on the west side. So that's kind of like our plan to get through the intersection. That's basically we still have to put in the 30-inch trunk main, 20-inch water main, traffic signals, concrete base. We also have to rebuild 2 Con Ed manholes at that intersection on the east side. So there's still some work to be done at the Church and Worth Street intersection. Church and Broadway they're working on at this time. They've poured some concrete base at the intersection, and they still have to install a little bit of 12-inch water main on the south side of that intersection. And once they do that, they can do the concrete base and final paving. But that's where 26 Federal Plaza is, and they have that section cut out like 13 feet north of the south curb line in front of their building where they're doing work. So we won't be able to restore that area. They're going to do it when they finish their project, their whatever they're doing on their parking deck and everything else in that area. So we're leaving that to them because we won't be around by the time they're done.
Oh, so you'll
Okay,
be finished
so
before they're finished.
we're hoping, yes. We should be out of there by then. But those are like the two locations where we haven't work. So once those two locations are complete, then we can finally pave the road on Worth Street from West Broadway all the way to Broadway. And then once that's done, our project will be complete. And at this point, we're looking at the end of this year.
Okay. And do you have
Depending,
do you have a contractor to do the asbestos abatement on the water main?
That's not our contractor. It's going to be Con Ed's contractor because it's Con Ed's specialty work. They have their people that do it, or they hire it out. But we don't do it as part of our job. They come in and bring their guys in. They put the tents over it, and they vacuum seal it, and they clean it all up. But they notoriously work at night, and they work they're kind of slow because it's very meticulous work. But they can only clean what we've seen is maybe like 3 to 5 feet of pipe a day. So it's very slow, meticulous work.
There are residents there, right?
Yes, but it's not loud work.
But it's late at night?
The asbestos, they usually come in at night and do the work, but it's not like loud.
But don't they need
I don't think there's a noise problem.
They don't need lights and generators for the lights?
Well, they'll be inside the tents. They might have generators inside the tents. I'm not sure. Because all that area has to be tented off, and you have to have the negative pressure to keep all the asbestos from leaving the tented area. So everything is sucked in.
So are the residents being made aware that this is going to be going on, this night work taking place, and that there's a number to call to complain if they have any complaints?
Yeah, it'll be Liz will be doing it. She's the CCL on the project, as she's done on a couple other places on the project where we had asbestos abatement.
Yes, she will forward all Con Edison schedules to the public once received by the field office. She also offers a contact where they can reach Con Ed.
We know Liz very well.
Yes, and I will be letting them know who to contact in Con Edison.
We know you will. Thanks, Liz. Okay.
Yeah, because that's actually not our work. That's Con Ed work, and they have specialty people that they trust to do that. So we don't get anywhere near that stuff for them.
Okay. So before we go to the next project, committee or the public, any questions about Worth Street? No hands. Lucian, you see anybody?
No. Cora, is your hand still up from before? Cora?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then I think you're good to go to, is that everything? Probably?
Yeah, that was the last ZDC project.
Oh, I have some good news.
Okay.
We will be reopening that block that we closed. It was supposed to be closed for 6 weeks.
Oh, that is good
between
news.
Broadway and Lafayette, and they will have their block back as early as next Monday. Wow. So I will send out a little note to that effect tomorrow.
They should give you a party.
Okay, well, don't go anywhere yet. Cora put her hand up, so I think she does have something. Cora?
No, I'm trying to figure out, is this lower hand or upper?
Oh, I'll handle it. I can lower your hand, Cora. Don't worry.
Thank you.
What about Betty?
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to ask, there was no mention of Nassau Street? Did I miss it? Or
Nassau
Street change?
Hasn't been bid yet. I don't know if it's in the construction phase or
No,
I don't really know too much about it in
Yeah,
construction.
Walkman, I can answer to that. That project is still, that hasn't been, I think it's still finalizing design. I don't think it went out to bid. So we're looking, close to next year than than anything. Once we know more, we could come back and we'll give you guys a heads up.
Yeah, this is
Good to hear that.
for from DOT. Yeah, Frankie, yeah, that's true. We still haven't received the federal approvals for the design. So that's still in the process. So yeah, it's probably going to be summer of next year.
Great. I'm just at Rosie there. Did you hear that? I don't know. She might have left. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Any other projects?
That's all we have for today. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, committee, any questions, or public, any questions about anything else? Nope. All righty. So all of you, as always, thank you so much for coming, taking your evening to be here and fill us in on all of this. Please, again, let us know about the cobblestones. That's really important to our community. And we will see you not next month, but the following month.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Be safe.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye. All right. I did see Officer Nelson was on earlier. I don't know if he's still on.
He's still here. He's still with us.
Ryan, you there?
Hi, Pat. How are you?
Thanks as always for coming. I know you're busy. You're in the middle of, I think, 2 protests.
Yeah, I was able to take a break, so it was good.
Fantastic. We appreciate this, and I'm hoping we can make it a monthly, just 10, 15 minutes where you might fill us in on what's been going on in the community. I have a couple of questions if it will make it easier. We had heard about the family that was slashed, the mother, father, and child, and we had heard about a drive-by shooting, and someone said that the rise in the crime in the community was due to the rise in the homeless population. I'd like you to set us straight on that.
Okay. In regards to the family that was slashed, there was an arrest made almost immediately after the incident happened. So, I mean, I can't get into too many specifics because the case is still pending in the courts or not, but we don't know why the person did do it. He approached the family. I believe it was a 22-year-old, a 23-year-old, and they had a 1-year-old child. The parents received stitches, 10 or 12 stitches each, and the kid had a scrape or a slat, I don't believe that it was superficial though to the chin area. As far as the drive-by shooting, do you know the location of that one? That one's not.
Brian, I think the one they're referring to is the Stone Street where somebody shot in the air.
Yes. Okay. So there was a group of 6 or 7 individuals that were at a restaurant down on Stone Street. They decided to dine and dash, meaning that they skipped out on the bill. The security at the location attempted to pursue them and follow them. They displayed a firearm. They actually took the firearm and hit the security guard with it in the face, and then proceeded to fire a couple of shots into the air. Dick, on that one, did we make an arrest? Do you remember? No. That one is still pending. I believe they have 1 arrest and there's 5 outstanding on that case. As far as I haven't had any updates on that. It was just that first initial contact. They got the one person on a vehicle pursuit. I think they got him in the 7th precinct.
So it's kind of a one-of incident. It's not a.
Yeah,
spree.
you know what it is? It's kind of like, I hate to say it, it's more of the fact that these kids are carrying weapons now and they're not afraid to use them. Whereas, maybe 5-10 years ago they didn't always have them on them. They had them within reach, so to speak, but it was never like directly on them. Now they're being very bold and carrying them on them, and we're seeing a couple of more incidents than we normally would have with situations like this where the gun is being displayed or being used. But luckily in both instances, we at least made some sort of apprehension. And then the detective squad in the open case with the others, they'll interview the witness, they'll interview the witnesses, they'll interview the suspect, and try to get as much information they can to make other apprehensions. But that doesn't always happen.
Right. Just two questions. Was the security guard injured badly?
Not too badly, but once you take an object and hit somebody with it, it becomes a felony assault. So it sticks out as it comes over as a violent crime, and one of the 7 majors that we use to do our statistics. So it was a pretty significant crime that we had that night. It definitely had a lot of red flags raised, and we were doing more directed patrols in that area, and it was like the first week that area was like open. Having those kinds of that area was, it's like the Stone Street area always had people outside, and so it was like their first week of being open, and I guess to have that happen kind of stinks because it put them on the radar.
And then the other question, I know you can't tell us much, but the one person who was arrested, are they from our community?
Are they what?
Do they live in our community, the one person who was arrested?
Don't believe that they were in our community. The address didn't recognize anything from First Precinct.
Great, thank you. And then, so I had been told by an individual that they had been told by a police officer that the rise in crime in our community was due to the rise in the homeless population. Can you tell us anything about that?
It's more about the quality of life issues that are. I don't think it's the homeless directly. I mean, have we seen an uptick in homeless, crimes involving homeless individuals? Yes. But it's more about the quality of life. The less quality of life that us as the department are allowed to enforce, it brings a certain element into the precinct that we weren't seeing before. And more people means more, can correlate into more crime, so to speak, being committed. So it's not directly the homeless, but it could be partially due to that. But as far as statistics, I wouldn't be able to directly speak on that without definitely looking up and seeing what we have versus maybe last year, a 2-year, 3-year window to see how it looks. But we definitely do have, and a lot of things are making the news now that might not have made the news last year or the year before. So it might seem that we're getting more crime due to homeless people, but it's not necessarily 100% accurate.
Pat, can I just ask a quick question to follow up or clarify what you asked it?
Jump in.
So Officer Nelson, I guess, so when someone's saying is accusing the homeless people or more crime because of the homeless people or homeless population, that means that they are the people who are perpetrators or alleged perpetrators of the crime. So I would think that would be a statistic you would be able to look at last year and look at this year. And what I'm hearing you say is that's not the case. They may be the victims of the crime, but or there may be incidents where they're called because there's some things happening, but or officers are called, but there's no crime in progress. Would that be a fair assessment or not really? I don't know.
What I was trying to say was that I don't have specific. I didn't know that would be a question. I would have done some research and.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I can get some proper statistics for you, I'm just saying that basically just because we see an increase in the homeless population doesn't mean that all our crime problems are because of the homeless.
Well, I mean, I would agree with you on that, so that's why I'm wondering. Thank you. But go ahead, finish. Nope. I interrupted you.
So, as far as being able to see, I can definitely get back to you guys on that. I can look at the statistics, and see how, also to our front health office, since they have anything now, I can do a quick query of our see it.
Yeah, maybe for next month.
And come on.
You're breaking up. Other questions from the committee? Oops. Not hearing. Hello? No? What about the public?
Looks like Bob has his hand up, Pat.
Bob?
Yes. I'm interested in, I used to go to all those wonderful meetings at the first precinct. And at those, there's a kind of crime statistic roundup. If you're going to come every month to these meetings, I think those are really interesting and useful and informative and give people a general chance to understand the general picture. Do you think that's true or right or useful?
Sorry,
That's well, Brian's trying to sign up. That's a good question, Bob, because I was going to ask Brian also if he could explain what those statistics mean.
And then I have another question, and that is, every day I try to walk 5 to 8 miles, and that puts me out on the sidewalk after dark, and a lot of times there are people who seem to be mentally ill out on the street and out on the sidewalk, and I'm honestly not comfortable with them, and so I tend to cross the street or go around them. I noticed that this is much more common than it was in my experience doing this, and so is this kind of a growing problem, or is this just something that I happen to be wandering into, or what should I do about it?
Motion to release, Brian?
I think he was working on maybe rerouting a sound or doing something, but it seems like his connection was not great.
Right.
So we may have to give him a second to come back.
Yeah, and if we can't continue the conversation, we can delay this until next month.
And then, and Bob, I think your point is well received. We'll ask them to come with a year-over-year counts by month of the CompStat tracked crimes.
But I'm also interested in the behavioral part of this. What am I supposed to do about running across someone who's mostly naked, sleeping on the sidewalk, and looks like they're really suffering? And what am I supposed to do with panhandlers? I've been advised not to give them money, for example. But it's more complex than that because often they really are blocking a sidewalk.
So Bob, if I could jump in until Officer Nelson, certainly interrupt me because I can't see that you're here if you're not here, but interrupt me when you get on. But suggestion, don't give them money, offer to buy them food or give them food.
Yeah.
Give them something, or a bottle of water or something. If you're feeling so moved that they're that unhappy or that miserable, give them something that they'll need. They'll need water. That they'll need some sort of food. And if you feel comfortable enough to ask them what you want, you can ask them and then go buy it. If you don't, something innocuous. But what's that? I'm sorry.
I think Brian is back. Officer Nelson's back.
Officer Nelson can answer, please.
I'm sorry about that. Could you just repeat the question? Because I was getting all feedback.
Bob?
Okay, well, I was wondering, I walk 5 to 8 miles a day, and a lot of times I'm on the sidewalk at night, and I've been coming across more people that really seem mentally ill, that they really are, they are reactive. They're talking to themselves. I can hear them half a block before I get close to them. And I'm really not sure. We used to try and call up the agencies that look after these kinds of guys, and they knew them all, but they were still on the street. And so are they like a fixture and we just have to go around them, or how do we help them, or how do we kind of navigate through this, or am I in danger when I kind of walk past these guys? It feels like it, but
there's definitely, I'm not going to say that every homeless person has mental issues, but it definitely does seem that way when we're going out and we're interacting with them. Even myself and my partner Nick went out 2 days ago on a complaint by Fulton Street and Gold Street, And it was, believe it or not, even I was a little nervous approaching somebody because they had become very hostile towards us when we just approached and if they wanted services, if there was anything we can do for them, if we can make any recommendations. It made me very, uneasy because they kept making sort of movements and they having saying my window. So now events this summer and city council is open to do away with the now referrals to
maybe you can tell him his voice is breaking up.
Yeah, sorry, Brian, you're breaking up again.
Brian, you may want to just call in with your telephone.
Or turn off your video because sometimes that takes up the bandwidth.
That's a good call.
And if you just use audio, we can hear you maybe.
I don't.
A tiny little bit better.
Tiny little bit.
I would call in.
If you can call in, call in. If not, we can delay this until next month. So in the meantime,
I'll monitor the list for Brian to call in, but I'll just put in a quick plug in terms of my conversations with PD or law enforcement and Department of Homeless Services. Bob, you could always call 311 and report that someone is bedding down outside for the night if they're sleeping on the sidewalk, or if they just you've observed that they appear to be homeless. DHS uses that data to dispatch engagement, and that's really in terms of like what the government has tools to do, is the best way to perhaps convince them to accept services, especially not having to engage with law enforcement. So that's my recommendation. But if you believe that someone's committing a crime, then certainly you should call 911. Or if you believe that they're imminent harm to themselves, then definitely call 911. If you think that they're suffering, if it's like freezing cold out and they're not wearing a coat, you can call 911 if you believe that they're endangering themselves. And I've done that certainly by my home before. And I think that's one of the best, the two things you can do is 311 if it's not either violent or self-harm, and 911 if you think that there's danger.
No, I just want to comment on one nonviolent problem, and that is people have been doing much more pissing out on the street lately. And so I've walked past lots of men and even women that I've never seen women squatting before on the street like I've seen in the past week or two. So it's really the standards of what happens and what you get to see, and it seems to be going up and feels more dangerous. Or watching someone pee isn't a bad thing, but it's not right either.
Well, right. You don't want to see that when you're walking down the street. But the solution is possibly having more bathrooms and public bathrooms available.
Yes, we need
people.
bathrooms.
Okay,
I mean,
hold on.
I
Brian
can't
may be back.
imagine.
Everybody, hold on.
I guess I would based on that, I would push to make a resolution to ask for more public bathrooms.
Justine, hold on. I think Brian's back.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
Much better.
Good.
I don't know if you, Bob, did you get an answer, or do you want to post your question?
I'll tell him, Bob. So we make referrals to the Department of Homeless Services. What we do is we try to provide them with pictures If it's just us making the referral, they obviously have our contact. But if we have a citizen making the referral to us, we tried to provide them with as much info, because obviously they're not going to go out the minute we make the referral. So they want to be able to talk to the person to see if they can get a good description, where exactly on a specific block or a corner, and what they're talking about. Because sometimes, you know, the encampments or whatever, they do get moved, or they're not visible for whatever reason, or they're, you know, the information we provide them may be a little bit inaccurate. So they want to make sure that they have a good contact for them. So that's what we try to do right now. If somebody's posing a danger to themselves or others, we can react as police officers and make that decision. And, you know, we can get an ambulance over there. You know, we'll call up one of our supervisors over there to make sure that, you know, it's the proper thing that we need to be doing. And we'll go from there and treat it as such, you know, somebody who may need some sort of medical treatment, whether it be for, you know, any sort of, you know, illness or whatever, or if it's, you know, has to do with mental incapacity, you know, we'll make that decision and send them to the proper location.
Bob, did you get your answer?
One of the things I used to bring money, but I don't do anything like that now. But would it be useful to carry little vessels of water, hand those kinds of things out
to give to the individuals?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a personal choice. If that's something that you want to do, you know, you can. There's two ways of thinking with that. Some people say if you give to the homeless, they'll keep coming back, and some say, you know, have compassion and do the right thing, right? So it depends upon what theory that you want to, you know, live your life by. But I'm not saying do or don't. If that's something that you want to do, absolutely, you know, have compassion for another human being who may be down on their luck. Definitely.
And I know you don't have a long time, so Mimi, you're next. And I thought I saw Mitch.
Okay, I'll wait after Mimi.
And then Rosa.
Okay. Well, I was just very excited by the mention of public restrooms having any kind of, you know, toehold in any of these conversations, because I really do think we need public bathrooms. But that was before Officer Nelson came back on, so I could put my hand down. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
And I think we should take up the subject of public bathrooms at, you know.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we
I'm on a
should.
community board meeting, so I'm busy.
Bob, oh, he's on mute. Okay, good.
Mitch?
Yes.
Remember that Mr. Nelson's between two details tonight, so go, Mitch.
Okay, I wanted to just make one suggestion to Bob before I asked Officer Nelson a question. Because I care about Bob's safety, and so I would just say to Bob, if your gut is telling you that you feel uncomfortable walking down the street, don't feel 1 ounce of pang to cross the street, just because you don't want to give a wrong impression. So that would be my recommendation to Bob, to cross the street, just even if without any ounce of guilt. The other thing, and without putting Officer Nelson on the spot, and he probably maybe can't, say this on the air. Just in talking to a couple of anonymous cops, as actually not even in this precinct, would have happened to be going, walking on the street, and we happen to see some things, and just mention to them, you're not, they kind of, I hear them talking that, it's coming from the top, that, because of other things that have happened that aren't right, they're kind of being asked to back off on some of those quality of life things that nobody should go to jail for. But my understanding is that it's kind of coming from the top, and I'm not going to put them on the spot. So with that being said, Officer Nelson, like I said, I don't want anybody going to jail for, especially defecating or urinating on the street, because sometimes, like, it's an impossibility. But what is kind of like the normal position that you got, like, if somebody's just defecating on the street in the middle of the street, is there like some type of protocol, or is it basically no harm, no foul as long as nobody gets hurt?
No, I mean, it could definitely be dealt with. We've moved on from we used to issue something that would be called a criminal court summons. It would involve having to do a warrant check on the person, and they would have to make an appearance in court to answer for such violations, but now we don't do that. They took the criminal element, so to speak, out of it.
I don't want anybody to be, the thing is, most of the people that I would see doing that are people that do need help. So it's like I can't even imagine that they would have the wherewithal, to show up to answer the complaint. But, it goes back to that case, I guess, like, many decades ago, where you can't forcibly take somebody that might be mentally unstable, that needs help, against their will. And, I just don't know, like, is there do you have any leeway with that?
So, oh yeah, we have tons of leeway. So the short of it would be basically, if they're a threat to themselves or others, we can do something about it. If it's just a random person, using the street as their bathroom, that seems like they, might have their facilities about them, there's probably not much we can do. We would treat that situation, depending upon how it is while you're there. Like, I don't want to, Monday morning quarterback anything.
Of course. And I don't want anybody going to jail or losing their immigration status.
No, yeah, we're definitely past the point of arresting people for such acts at this point. We realize that wasn't necessarily the best way to do things either.
But doing nothing also is not, the right way also,
So again, that's why the referrals come in. So we've gotten a whole bunch of, different referral agencies now that we have to deal with. Instead of us handling it themselves, we make these referrals. So we would make the referrals to mental health and hygiene. We would make referrals to, Department of Homeless Services. And sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 referrals, or having to go to the location a few times for somebody to finally step in and say, yes, you know what, this person can't make decisions for themselves. They do need to seek medical treatment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Who was next?
I think it was me. This is Rosa.
Rosa.
Hi,
I
can
see
you hear
Dead
me?
up.
Hello?
Yep, I can hear you, Rosa.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Hey, Pat. Hi, Officer Nelson. I have a few questions. So I guess first comment was, I also am greatly in support of the increase in public restrooms. I think that is part of the reason why we are seeing some of the issues that come up, but then that also brings up the issue of how do we maintain them in such a way that they remain safe and clean environments. And I think that that's something that does need to be addressed at the same time. But I agree 100% that we do need more public restrooms. Absolutely.
We'll take that up topic.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then, I'm not sure if this is a correct read of the situation, so perhaps you can help me with this, Officer Nelson. But to me, homelessness seems like it is often actually a symptom. And the root cause of it a lot of times might be mental illness, which is what's coming up right now a lot, and or substance abuse. And I have to say that for me, just as an Asian woman wandering around on the streets of New York City, especially these days, with Asian hate crime numbers going up, as we discussed in a prior quality of life meeting, whenever I do, as Bob said, I see somebody who does seem to be mentally unstable and homeless, I hesitate, in a way that I didn't do before. And I do sort of go through that calculus of, okay, is it going to be weirder for me to cross the street? Is this like a personal safety concern that I do need to address? So I guess going back to what Mitch is saying, I mean, I should just cross.
So I'm a firm believer in trusting your gut, like Mitch said. It's kind of the old school way of thinking. I know it's not, but I've been on the job 19 years now, and I kind of find that when somebody has a gut feeling, it's usually spot on. There's a reason why you're getting that feeling and sensation.
Okay.
Especially as a woman, your gut feeling is much better than our gut feeling.
And we've all we have intuition for a reason, everybody.
Right.
Brian, I don't know how much longer you have. We have like 3 more questions.
Yeah, it's
Do you
fine.
have time?
Yes.
Detta? Oh, Rosa, I'm sorry, Rosa, were you finished?
Actually, I did have one other question, which was regarding the bill that Lucian passed around. There was part of it that said something about New York New York officers being required to live now within the 5 boroughs if that gets passed. I was just wondering what the officers' take on that was.
It won't affect anybody who's already on the job. It doesn't affect, so it'll affect anybody who's a new hire. The only problem that I would personally, this is my own opinion. This isn't an opinion of anybody, the department or anything. Would be that you may be turning away candidates just because of their geographical area. So that's the only downside of it, is that you may have people who really want to be New York City cops that maybe live in Long Island or one of the adjoining counties. And, they won't have that opportunity unless they.
Okay, thank you.
Detta?
Hi, thank you. I just had a question about how to report a homeless encampment if I see one. Last summer, there was one that I noticed, and it was against the side door of a building. So it was actually preventing residents from having the two methods of egress that they should have from a building. So I didn't know if I should report it to HPD as a violation or, but I'm hearing that I should just report it to Department of Homeless Services. So I just wanted some clarity about, if I see something like that where the homeless encampment is blocking a door of a building.
You can do a direct referral through 311, or you can email them. If you go on newyorkcity.gov and look up Department of Homeless Services, they'll have an email. You can do it that way. Or if you want, I can give you my email address and you can send me and I can do the referral for you.
Or you can also let Lucian know.
Okay. Thank you.
We all work for you.
My email's on the First Precinct webpage. I'm under the crime prevention officer still on that, but my email is on there if you want to grab it off that.
Thank you. I'll do that.
Jill?
Hi, Officer Nelson. My question might tap into the Port Authority Police, but it's sort of multi-part about crime around the subway stations. One part is, since there's several termini, what have you, that let out in our area, has that somehow led to an increase in homelessness? The other part of that question is, I think I've made the mistake of having Citizens app, and I see a lot of crime around the subway stations. Is the First Precinct involved in that? Have you seen an uptick in that, and why do you think that is?
So we have our own bureau inside the NYPD, the Transit Bureau, that handles all the subway. In the First Precinct, the jurisdiction is Transit District 2. We do see some more crimes on Fulton Street and John Street, and some more homeless because of the Fulton Center being built and being fully functional now. But I'm not an expert. I can't, it's gut feelings. I can't say definitively whether or not one thing is in correlation with the other. But sometimes it does feel that way. But we are aware of it. We do work closely with Transit District 2. We do joint ops with them to try to address the situations as they come. There were a lot of crimes happening in the subways. They were taking officers from the police precincts and putting them into the transit facilities. They were doing 2 per shift for the day tours and 4 to 12s. The reason they weren't doing it over the midnight was because of the subway cleanings were still in effect. So we do try to work with each other in regards to that. It's not always perfect, but as far as transit crimes and statistics with the homeless, I really can't answer that because it's not in my jurisdiction. I don't, we don't really track stuff like that. You'd have to ask, Transit District 2 about that. We do have a community council meeting that they're usually on. It's the last Thursday of the month. Usually their commanding officer or their community affairs officer does attend that meeting. So that would be something maybe you want to, log on for, and you can present that to them.
That's great information. Thank you. But there does seem, from what you say, to be an uptick in crime related to the full opening of the Fulton Station then.
Again, I have no official, but we definitely see an uptick in activity in that area, in the Fulton area, in the John Street area. As far as statistics, I don't know if they're, +2 for the year, -3, but it definitely, has a feeling that, we definitely are seeing more incidents involved, and we knew that was going to happen with the opening of the center. It's a natural thing. It's a place where everybody, wants to congregate.
Thank you.
It's amazing. So, we knew that was going to happen.
We have one more, Michael Francoeur.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Sorry. I just wanted to, not a question, just wanted to thank Officer Nelson for attending. I haven't been able to attend those precinct meetings or the community meetings, so it's just nice to get some of this information. And then just wanted to quickly plus one the public restroom, the need for additional public restrooms. And I wanted to say, in preparation for that meeting, I was up in Midtown last weekend, and they have two very lovely public restrooms in Bryant Park and Herald Square. So I don't know much about the background on how those were built, how those are funded, how those are run, but might be worth looking at to understand what they're doing right.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Pat, I put it back up, so that's not a misprint. I just wanted to ask one more thing, if I can.
Quickly, and then I wanted, because the public may have. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that this might have even come up in the transportation committee, I think, as opposed to this committee, but it was about, it would be nice if, without flooding the trains with police, but, if more police were able to take the trains into work. And so, it's always Officer Nelson, I'm wondering if this has come up at all, where, a system of rewards, like carrot sticks, maybe has it ever been brought up, officers that maybe could come into work on the trains, that live within proximity, like in the 5 boroughs or on the LI, or the Long Island Railroad, dressed, that even though they're off the clock, give them an extra hour of overtime, but not have it charged against their overtime limit. Things like that, or for every week that they come in dressed on the train, because even if they're not on the clock, just that appearance makes that subway car safer. An extra vacation day for every week that they come in. I mean, those type of things. So it's not just asking for more without giving something back. I always think it's like compensation when you get bumped from an airline. Those type of things work.
Well, maybe it's something we can propose. We could. Rezzo proposing that.
So I just wanted to get. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, that's something I couldn't speak out to. That would have to be negotiations in our contract.
Okay. I just like win-win situations. Okay, thank you.
No
Bob,
problem.
did you have a question? Hand it up.
Yeah, I have a quick comment that I'd like to make, and that is that is it possible, a question of Lucian, for us to contact the Fulton Center, Westfield, and Brookfield? All 3 of them have restrooms that are really pretty good. They shut them down and very early, and people can't use them, and some of them have never been open in the whole COVID period. So those are available.
Bob, but can we hold that, because Officer Nelson's on the clock, and that's one of our, that'll be our bathroom discussion. Okay.
Yeah, that's our discussion. And Pops and Food, I also want to mention for a second.
I'm sorry, what else?
Also, Hudson Eats and Winter Garden, you have to buy food in order to use that. And those places, I tried that today, and they should be open to the public. Those are
okay. When we have our bathroom discussion, yeah, bring that up, okay? Anyone else from the committee had a question? If not, let's see if the public has anything that they want to ask.
Pat, we have Taylor with her hand up.
Hi, Taylor.
I'm unmuting you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for having this conversation. I think talking about how we as a community can respectfully and out of mutual interest, support one another and support our unsheltered neighbors and community members. And I just wanted to direct everyone to a resource if they'd like. A group of community members are organizing out of respect and mutual interest with our unsheltered neighbors and community. We're working together to learn and grow and support because we care. And this is a basic human rights issue for all of us. Having access to permanent, safe shelter and services. So if neighbors are looking for more resources, I'll put it in the chat. And a way to be a part of, a supportive community, feel free to email. It's the group right now is called Friends of FIDI. The email is hello@friendsofFIDI.com.
Great, thanks, Taylor. Okay, I know that Officer Nelson's got lots to do tonight. So any other questions? If not, we're going to thank him. Any other questions? Okay, Officer Nelson, as always, thank you. We appreciate you taking your time coming to speak to us. If possible, if this could be, obviously there are lots of questions that people like asking. So if it's possible to do it once a month, next month, maybe you might want to send the NCO so we could get to meet them and they can tell us what they do. All right. And they can meet us. So we'll leave it up to you, but we'd appreciate having this segment every month in our committee.
Not a problem. As long as I'm available.
So please be safe.
I'll do it. Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Care.
Thank you, Officer
We
Nelson.
hope you at the council meeting. Good night.
Just real quickly, we're having our community council meeting on the 29th of April. It'll be at 6 p.m. a Zoom link. I'll send it to Pat and Lucian and all the CB1 people, and you can get in contact with them or you can email me and I'll give you the link directly. Okay.
Brian will gladly put it in our newsletter and tweet it out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Take care. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Good discussion, everybody. So I have here a little note. We'll have a bathroom discussion. We'll put it on the agenda. We'll talk about public bathrooms. We talked about public bathrooms about, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. So it's time to bring it back again. Just an aside, Michael Francoeur, I'd love to talk to you about that CSA you were talking about. That's just aside. All right. So moving along, we can do.
I could just really quick. Can I just make a quick points of information, just in preparation, so people can think about them for next time. Right now, most pops are closed because of an executive order. Still, the emergency executive order related to coronavirus. The Winter Garden is supposed to be open, regardless of whether or not you have food. It's just a temperature check and putting your name down for contact tracing. That was what we were informed. But if you were rebuffed for going in, then I will be reaching out to them tomorrow. So
I was rebuffed.
Okay,
What'd
then
they
I'll.
say, I was Bob? rebuffed.
Well, just not to dwell on it. We can talk by email offline. And then the last
Be in the loop
piece.
on that, okay, please?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The last piece is CB1 approved or proposed public restroom at the plaza at 1 Center Street not that long ago. And I asked DOT for more information, but I think the pandemic may have scrambled their plans in redoing that plaza. So I'll check back in with them. So this is all information that I'll try to have for you for next month.
Did you say Center Street Plaza?
Yeah, 1 Center Street in that plaza.
And Lucian, since you're working on this a little bit, I really find it amazing that the Fulton Center, Westfield, and Brookfield often some of those restrooms they're really great restrooms. I don't think they've been open in months, and they're open for a very short time and then they're closed. So if you could research that too and just verify, because I thought maybe we could write a letter and just ask them to open them or at least know what's available when.
Well, I'll email representatives for each of them and ask them what the status is, and then once we know what the official status is, then we can work on changing it if the status is not to our liking.
So it's
Great.
20.
That's what I was hoping.
Everybody, and we'd like to try to finish by 9:15 if possible. Before we go on to the City Council reform, Mariama, do you want to give us a quick update on the helicopter task force and your VCF deadlines? Mariama? Did we lose her?
No, she's on.
Mariama?
Well, she may.
She stepped away.
Yeah, maybe she stepped away.
Yeah. Okay. So do we want to go on then? Lucian, are you going to run this part of it? Are you going to kind of get
sure,
us?
I can help with that. But for VCF, there will be an agenda item next month for the Victims Compensation Fund, right, Pat? I think that's what just to give everyone a preview. I think
But I
you're going to
thought
try
that
to get Sally Flynn to come in for May.
there were deadlines that Mariama wanted people to know about
Right.
early, so get their
Right.
paperwork before the
Got it.
deadline.
Got it.
Pat,
Right, when
before
she comes
the meeting
back.
is over, Pat, before the meeting is over, I just wanted to, not now, but before the meeting is over, I just wanted to add one small topic for maybe a future agenda.
Why don't you add it now?
Okay, this one I think is basically totally non-controversial, and I see this more in other districts, but I'm seeing it more here, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that you might want to bring up. It's not life or death, but I'm seeing an increase, a big increase in dog poop on the street, where just so many people are not picking up after their dog, and it's not, like I said, it's not, nobody should go to jail or anything like that, but I was just wondering if, as in the Quality of Life Committee, it's something that, you know, I don't know if anybody else is seeing an uptick in that.
I got it, Mitch, and we'll figure out how we can have a discussion and what we might be able to do about it. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else quickly want to bring up an item for a future agenda? If not, Mariama, are you back yet? Nope. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the city council reform, the legislative package, and Lucian has sent us out some links to read. I don't know if everybody got a chance to read it, but Lucian, you want to just get away and tell us what was going on and what they voted on and what we're doing going forward.
So a lot of the action that was taken by the New York City Council very recently was likely preceded by an executive order by the governor to have, I think, maybe in all cities over 1 million people. I think it was one of those types of things, basically saying New York City needed to enact some degree of police reform, and the scope and the way that it kind of came together. And I don't know enough about the executive order to say what was mandated, but they tinkered a little bit with qualified immunity. It doesn't appear to be a wholesale removal of qualified immunity, because simply the state of New York may not have the jurisdiction to do that. It may be necessary that the federal government acts for full revocation of qualified immunity for those who wish to see that. There was also a number of resolutions passed by the city council asking for the state of New York, the legislature of the state of New York, to take action on things that New York City did not have home rule rights to change. One being the making the CCRB disciplinary decisions stand and not be subject to the final determination of the New York City Police Commissioner. That appears to be something that is a state level thing, and the resolution spells out, I think there is legislation at the state level for that. The other is to require that NYPD lives within the 5 boroughs. And I think that the rationale is what was discussed for the most part tonight, to make sure that people they're on the subways commuting, that there's more of a fraternity with New Yorkers. I've heard things like it's less of an occupying force kind of feel. So those are some things that I've heard associated with that. Another bill is the qualified immunity bill. Also appears used to have a provision in it that was eliminated to make lawsuits with cash payouts either come from the officer or at least the NYPD's budget. That was eliminated, and the payouts will continue to come out of the New York City General Fund. There's another bill requiring, it's a data bill that requires the NYPD to report about traffic stops, which the NYCLU was actually positive on, that more data on how traffic stops may be improperly biased could come from seeing that data. So we'll look forward to seeing that if it's signed into law. And then the final bill that that was the Adonis Rodriguez bill coming out of the Transportation Committee, establishing an investigation squad for crashes within the Department of Transportation. There has been an enormous amount of criticism that the NYPD's crash squad is either slow to arrive and do its work. It doesn't arrive, and one of the first things it does is say that they blame the victim that had been either run over or pushed out of the lane, what have you. So those are the bills and the actions that the city council has taken, and I leave it to you all to discuss this.
Well, have any of this been? I thought they were voting on it before now.
They voted, yeah, those were all passed. Those were all passed by the city council, but I don't believe they've been signed by the mayor.
Okay.
And the state legislature has not acted, or at least has not passed the bills that the city council passed resolutions urging action on.
So the two state bills were the ones with the police officers have to live in New York City, and
the New York City and the CCRB ruling stands as the final determination.
you mean the police commissioner would not be the final arbitrator of what happens with a disciplinary?
I believe that's right. Yep.
Okay. And so
But was that
the
what
other,
was decided though? I'm confused.
The city council does not have it does not appear to have the home rule authority to make that change, and so they've made their request to the state to take action to make that change at the state level.
so the city council wants the state to make that change, those two changes.
Yep.
Okay, so they've sent it to the state legislators, right?
Essentially do what we did. They essentially sent them a letter saying this is what we've moved to tell you collectively, that we wish for you to take action on this, but there's no, it's advisory only.
Okay, so who has to vote? I'm not sure I understand.
So
Who
now,
has to-
so now they want the state senate and the assembly to move bills that achieve that goal on behalf of the city council. Because the what's tricky here is that in the U.S. Constitution, the federal government is established and the state governments are established, but the Constitution really doesn't talk about cities. Cities are, what we say in urban planning, are animals of the state, and the state kind of defines how it wants to organize cities, and the state gives powers to the city to whatever degree that they wish. Cities don't have any innate kind of rights of self-governance, only what's been bequeathed by the state. And the city of New York is no different in that extent. And the state has allowed us to have rules, to give ourselves rules on certain things. And it appears that in this particular instance, the governance of discipline for our law enforcement is something that is bound by some state law and has not been given we have not been given home rule authority to determine that at our level, at the municipal level.
So are these two things that we should talk to Senator Kavanaugh and to Assemblymember New about?
Absolutely.
So
and Deborah Glick's office.
And Deborah, yes. And so could we invite them for next month to come in and
Absolutely.
discuss? Just on that note, are people interested in doing that? You could just jump in.
100%, yes. Yes, I agree with that.
Yes.
And I'm seeing some comments come in. People would also like to hear from experts who've been advocating on these issues for years in the city.
Okay, so can we make that one of our agenda items?
I've seen a list. I mean, I would love to bring the NYCLU back in, since they've already spoken to you all. You have a relationship with them. But if there's a couple other organizations, I'll also reach out to them as well.
Okay, so during the month, you and I can talk before, and anybody else who has any input. So then the other things are now this so my understanding is this, to create the crash unit, and it would be under the auspices of DOT, that is something that the city council has voted on or has not voted on,
It has. It has.
and it's passed.
It's passed. Though, you know, I would want everyone to kind of curb their enthusiasm to some extent because I think that this would probably be kind of like a pilot level um, action, and we've seen this before with city council giving some amount of traffic enforcement or parking enforcement to DOT, and then just having the mayor and city council zero out the budget, and then essentially eliminating that provision budgetarily. So, you know, I'll believe it when I see it budgeted.
Can I ask Betty and Michael, is this something you can take up in your committee and find out more about? And is Betty still here? Michael, Vancour, are you guys here?
Yeah, I'm still here. I don't know if Betty's still on. She is still on. I see her there. I don't see why not, but I'll let Betty speak.
We certainly can. We'll have to find out. I have to even see what DOT's position is on it first.
So it's your baby. We're
Okay, thanks. I release you from that duty.
Thanks, Pat.
Anytime.
Pat, can I ask you, the city council resolution where they want to have the, I guess, the policemen and firemen live within the 5 boroughs, is that something we're planning on, or we're just asking about more information about that?
Only the policemen, and we're asking, so according to what Lucian is telling us, that is something that the state has to vote on. And so we're asking our state representatives to come in and give us, first of all, their opinion. Are they going to vote in favor of? Meanwhile, for next month, everybody to think about whether these are issues that they're in favor of.
Right, because I'm sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
No, go ahead, finish, Mitch. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying because I actually have mixed feelings where I see pluses and minuses on both sides of that specific issue. And so I didn't know if we were like, as a board, going to be like voting in favor or not of it. I'm sorry?
Not until we get some information from our state officials, from our state officials. And
Thank
that
you.
would hopefully be next month.
Right.
We have the CCRB to investigate police with history of bias, right? Lucian, this is another one. The CCRB to investigate police with history of bias and racial profiling complaints. Is that another one that the city council has voted on?
Let me see. I may have.
And while Lucian is looking that up, Pat, one thing I would say is I don't know that the elected officials are supposed to tell us what to do. I think we're supposed to tell them what we think. And the way to get the information, we need information. I agree with you.
Right.
But they should be there to listen to the information that's presented by the groups like the I guess the NYACLU, is that who Lucian said?
We need to do all of we need to have them come in.
Invite everybody to the exactly. Invite them to listen and
Right.
of course give their opinions that they have it. But I'm not, I suppose, I guess my feeling is I'm not interested in what they think. I want to know what the people who are on the ground doing it think.
Well,
and then we can talk about it and make a decision. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Pat,
Lucian.
yes, I definitely read over this one. I mean, I didn't read over. I did not see it and I skipped it.
That's good.
But yes, they also. Well, this says this one. I'm reading the. So in this press release that I sent, it says council votes, and then I think they said that they will vote on a bill that allows the CCRB to investigate police with a history of bias. So I am not as certain that that has been passed yet. I'd have to find the bill number and look it up.
Okay, so we'll find out about that.
I'll read down in here and see if I can pull the bill number.
And we all can do some research too. And then the other one is the quarterly report of all traffic and vehicle stops by precinct, race, ethnicity, age, right? Summonses issued, number of arrests, vehicles searched, was consent provided. So now that's another one. Was that voted on, or they have to vote on that? And
I
if you
was
don't,
reading. What was it? Which one was that? Can you
so
read
it's the
it?
one where they want to have a quarter report. I guess the city council wants a quarterly report on all traffic and vehicle
That one
stops
was
by
voted on. I think that one was passed.
passed. Okay, so that's passed by city council. Okay, so who gets the report?
I think probably city council will have a hearing, and that will be they'll testify based on the data.
Okay, so
That's my guess.
if it's possible, if you could just, find out like what's going on, who gets the report? Do we citizens get to find out by precinct what the stops were and that information of, number of arrests by age, by ethnicity? I love this part. Was consent provided for the police to be able to search the vehicle? So maybe we can all do some research on this. Does everybody kind of understand what I was saying? Yeah? No? Mimi looks confused. Turn on your sound, Mimi.
All right, I couldn't find my mouse. Yeah, I don't quite like. If you could rephrase it, maybe just to make sure I
Okay,
understand.
so I have here that I just wrote after reading this a couple of days ago that the city council's asking for a quarterly report on all traffic and vehicle stops by the police, right? And they want the information to be broken down by precinct, by race and ethnicity and age. They want to know where summonses issued, what were the number of arrests. I don't even know over like what period of time. Is it like per month? They want to know if the vehicle was searched. They want to know was consent provided by the passengers for the vehicle to be searched. And Solution is saying that he thinks that this passed, but I'm not understanding it because
It passed. I'm looking at it now on Legistar.
yeah, like who's the report going to and who's giving the information and who's, you know what I mean? I need to,
I mean, at the very minimum, the report will be transmitted to the city council, central staff, and disseminated amongst the members. In terms of whether or not they call a hearing, I think it's up to them. They could certainly be within their rights to have a hearing every quarter and have the NYPD testify. I'm looking at the text right now and see what I can find.
Or maybe we can get Councilmember Chin's office to kind of explain to us, because I'm not sure I understand who gets the information, what are their intentions, like what are they going to do with that information, how often are they going to get that information? I'm just curious to know.
If it's quarterly, it would be 4 times a year.
It does. Oh, thank you, Mitch.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like sarcastic. I apologize.
Mitch, you're right. Quarterly is 4 times a year. So then what are they going to do with it? And why?
I guess they want to see if there's a pattern of some type of discriminatory behavior.
Yeah, but then if there is, what are they going to do? I just would like to know.
I think so according to the text of the bill, the text only outlines the sorts of reporting criteria they're looking for. It says that the data has to be digitized. It can't just be a scanned PDF of handwriting. And then they should be able to build upon every quarter and kind of try to establish if there's patterns, a seasonality, and then use that as a basis for, I think, for what Mitch was saying, to enact further reforms to see if there's patterns of bias, discrimination, overuse of authority, and such. I think it's essentially a precursor to exploring how to reduce the NYPD's footprint on traffic enforcement.
Well, and I think it's great, but then I'd also like to know, like, is this something that how long are they going to like investigate the information before they make a decision to do something? Is it a year's project?
This report will be, there's no end date on this, so they'll be getting this report until the end of time, every quarter.
Lucian, I would think that except for race, race and ethnicity, that all of the other data that is required to be put down should already be on every stop report. Like, whether consent was given, the model of the car, where it was, like all that other stuff that you said, I would think would just be normal on every police stop report, with the exception of the race and ethnicity that, is also added.
Maybe that's why they're asking for it. I don't know.
Because all the other stuff to me would just be normal.
I can tell you what's on the report. I can just read it out to you if you want. Give me a second. So they're looking for the total number of vehicle stops conducted by officers, the total number of vehicle stops by officers at roadblocks, the total number of summonses issued in connection with the vehicle stop, roadblock stop, or checkpoint, total number of arrests made in connection with the stop, total number of vehicle stops, the total number of vehicles stopped that were vehicles licensed by the Taxi and Limousine Commission, total number of summonses issued disaggregated by whether civil or criminal offenses were charged, the total number of arrests made at the top offenses charged, the total number of vehicles seized as a result of a vehicle stop, roadblock, the total number of searches of vehicles disaggregated by whether consent was provided for such searches, the total number of force incidents as defined in sections 14 through 158, the information required by subdivision of the section, blah, 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 blah. Information, let's see. Oh, and this is just saying how it should be stored.
Right. Solution, besides race and ethnicity, everything that you just said would seem to me like they should have, because that should be on a regular report for every stop.
Yeah, I think they have all this information, all this data. They just don't transmit it in a way that's easy for city council to digest.
Yeah. Right, that's the thing. Okay, thank you.
Do you think the best approach, though, is to ask Councilmember Chin's office to?
Yes, Cora said that she would check.
Okay, great. So then, so for next month's meeting, we will ask our state officials to come in, or their representatives. We will ask Councilmember Chin's office to come in. We will ask the ACLU to come in, or the NYCLU to come in, and then any other organizations that any of us come up with, or you come up with, Lucian, and we'll have a meeting. And also by that time, maybe there'll be some movement on the state level with those other two bills that the city council has requested.
Yeah, I'll take a look at those on their websites, and I'll track them to see if there's any movement. And for all the people who have ideas of who else should come, just go ahead and invite them. You can certainly send me their information, but everyone should always invite whoever they want to come to these meetings. There's no upward limit of who can come.
And they'll be given a chance to speak. Is that okay? I guess they would, right?
But we try to give everybody a chance to speak, if
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody want to say anything? Anything else?
Yeah, Pat, I just wanted to say we're also hoping that next month the VCF can come to the meeting.
Yeah, we were asking you. You must have stepped away.
Yeah, I stepped away during Brian Nelson's thing.
Yeah, we wanted to ask you to give an update on what you wanted to tell us about this, because there were VCF deadlines you wanted us to know about, right?
Yes, so I've actually shared to Lucian links where it's available in Spanish, Polish, Chinese, and English, all of the deadlines and to whom they apply and how. There's been a lot of confusion, particularly about the July 29th deadline. Most of us are, it's a deadline to register, but it's like very specific, and most of us are grandfathered in. So you really should go to that. If you think that it may apply to you, I've asked Lucian to share it, publicly. I just sent it to him so far.
So register for what, Marianne? I missed that first part.
For the Victims Compensation Fund, 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund.
Thank you.
Yeah, originally they had registration deadline in place that was lifted when the bill was reauthorized back in 2016. And so that gave everybody more time. But since then, and more recently, actually, as of this year, really, more survivors, as in residents, students, area workers that weren't first responders, are now seeking benefits, as they should, if they're eligible for benefits. And so it was miscommunicated that they all had to register by July 29th, which isn't necessarily correct. Some people do, but a lot of us are actually grandfathered in because it's based on the time, it's based on the date of your certification by the health clinic, the World Trade Center Health Clinic. The deadline is to register within 2 years of your certification. But because a lot of us had a certification long before the reauthorization of the bill, it doesn't apply. So we're grandfathered in and we don't have to meet that deadline. But like I said, it's better to just go on to the links. Lucian, if you could share them, more widely.
And you're going to put that, Mariama?
It's in the chat.
Mariama, you're putting them in the newsletter too, or Lucian?
Yeah, I made a note to put them in the newsletter, and the link, the deadline link, is in the chat.
Did I lose everybody?
Yeah. Because people were beginning to think that they needed to rush to the clinic to be certified, and the clinic was becoming inundated and overwhelmed unnecessarily, because it's not true. It's a misunderstanding. So yeah, just get cleared up on whether or not you need to register now, and then we'll have the VCF hopefully in May. Lucian is already trying to schedule it to answer any questions, because there's also another deadline with regard to spouses, or not only spouses, family members, deceased family members, that if you want to file a claim for a deceased family member, that deadline is coming up also. I believe that may be also July 29th. So you would have to begin to start that application. You don't have to have your claim completed, but you have to start the process. So hopefully they'll be here in time to, help anybody who needs to do that to navigate it.
So, Mariama, that doesn't mean that you need to sign up for the health clinic or sign up for the VCF if you haven't done so already. That's not that deadline, correct?
No, and that's the confusion that had been going around. I think a lot of the law firms were telling people that they need to run, quick and get certified, and that's not true.
Thank you.
But a lot of us registered. I don't know if you remember, before the bill was reauthorized, when it was first passed in 2010, and they were saying register for the VCF, and we're like, for what? And it was this long process online. So you may remember doing it and saying, oh yeah, I did register. They finally told us to a lot of us finally registered, even if we didn't do anything with it, and we didn't apply for, we didn't try to file a claim or anything. That registration is still good.
And there's no deadline, and that deadline doesn't apply to that, Mariama? So
no, because you're already registered. You don't have to register again.
And you don't have to register. You have to, yeah, right. The whole thing of registering within 2 years.
Right. The deadline is for people who are not registered, and for people who are more recently certified. So you're yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
If you certified after the reauthorization, the clock started ticking from the day of your certification. The other thing that I was going to talk to you guys about, update you on, was the reintroduction of the helicopter safety bill. So back in, I think it was 2019, Congressman Nadler, Congresswoman Maloney, and Velasquez had introduced this bill for helicopter safety and they recently brought it again with the additional co-sponsor of our borough president. And so she had a helicopter task force meeting to apprise everybody of the fact that there is many people committed to protecting us from this noise pollution. And there was actually a woman there who spoke of maybe some physical, like environmental pollution as well. Councilman Levine was there. He spoke a little bit toward the noise pollution and how that could impact people's health, like the aggravation and the stress of, just being under constant assault by helicopters, and some people are, depending upon where they live. Representation from Jersey was there. So it was probably a body of about 15 people, very committed to maintaining the safety of the neighborhoods, both here and in Jersey, from these helicopters. And that was it. Oh, I do want to say something about what we were talking about before, though. Also, I almost forgot. So like a lot of the social justice people are not happy with, they're happy that the city council moved on something. So, they're not mad with the city council, but they're not satisfied with what was passed. For example, I'll do the CCRB one. So it's, many people feel that the CCRB is already proven ineffective. And so the fact that the city council has passed something saying that they now must receive a report may mean something or may not. We supported them recently, here at the board, myself included. I voted for it too, for additional funding for the CCRB. But the police commissioner really makes the final decisions as to whether or not the CCRB's recommendations are going to be taken. And so, just passing a bill to further grant the CCRB sort of purview over an area in terms of monitoring, but they don't have the final say, may prove to continue to be ineffective. So a lot of people are not thrilled about what was passed, but again, happy that the city council at least took up some of these issues. And so a lot of information, which was presuming that information should be included in the report. It didn't even say on Breonna Taylor's, on the report, when they infiltrated her home, it didn't even say on that report that anyone had died at that scene. Her death wasn't even recorded. So it's not necessarily true that information would be completed on a report that should be.
And Miriam, you're going to invite the state legislators next month and to talk about.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So that bill, the one with the taking the power away from the commissioner, is what we'll be discussing also.
Awesome.
For the CCRB. Thank you. I don't know, I dropped off for a minute. I don't know what happened, but I kind of missed your helicopter report. Was there something we should follow up?
It was just basically that because more and more helicopter companies seem to keep popping up, right? Yeah. Both in New York and in New Jersey, that the Congress, our congressmen, Nadler, Maloney, and Velasquez, they reintroduced a bill that they first introduced in 2019. And now our borough president is also like a co-sponsor with them formally to push for helicopter safety. So it involves all types of safety. It's environmental, it is noise, it is traffic, in terms of them taking over the airways, it's all of that.
And are they going to, is this like this task force meeting that you attended? This is going to be an ongoing thing? Will they have more meetings?
I think it'll be quarterly.
And so will you be our representative?
I could be, sure.
Good. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. So, was that it, Mariama?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
All right. So everybody, any questions? I see Bob, your hand is up. Is that from before? Or you had something new? Jill, your hand is up. Is that something new, old? Unmute yourselves. Is it new, old? Jill, Bob?
Oh, it's all old. I thought I put it
Oh.
down. Oh, sorry, apologies.
That's okay. Bob? It's 9.
And
It's
Pat, you
just
have a
about.
member of the public with their hand up as well.
There's someone in the public?
Looks like Taylor.
Hi, Taylor.
Sorry, I just was in another room. Didn't know I'd be unmuted. Thank you guys. Yes, I'm really excited to talk about this discussion, and I did put this in the chat, and Lucian amplified it, but I just want to be specific. The groups are the Communities United for Police Reform and Justice Committee. I've emailed you about them. I will email you again, and as Lucian said, I'll invite them. And they are established organizations. They're busy people doing a lot of advocacy work. Out of respect for them, I want to be sure they'll get the chance to present and not. I feel very uncomfortable asking people I don't know personally to come if they're only going to get 1 minute, maybe not a chance to speak. So if they come as presenters, I'll happily, on the board's behalf, your behalf, with your help, invite them to come and speak on this and give us more insight. They're the ones, they're BIPOC-led. They're a coalition of groups that have been advocating for these reforms for years in New York City.
Taylor, let's talk about it, and let's talk to them before we invite them so we can make sure that, it's a good fit and that they want to come and that they've got information to give us. So before we invite them, let's have a
Just
chat.
to give reference, they were literally quoted and referenced by Gail Brewer in her release of this report. So she said that the report leaned on their requests and their advocacy. So it's basically like these groups asked for this. This is what came out of it as best the council could do. So might as well go back to the source. And just to state, Justice Committee is an organization of individuals. They're BIPOC led, and they are the families of the individual killed by NYPD. So they've been advocating for this for decades, 50 years at least.
Wow.
So it's important, I think, to make sure we hear their voices along with established legal groups and our elected officials. Their voices matter too. Thank you very much.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, so we'll have a chat. If anybody else has a organization that they want to invite, let's have a chat, and let's make it a good, robust committee meeting for next month, which we try to do every month. Before we end, is there anything anybody wants to say? Nope. All right. Going once, going twice.
Yeah, Pat, I sent you an email, so.
Okay, I'll look. You don't want to, is it something you want to share, or you just want me to look at?
It might be easier. I went to Lucian as well to get feedback from both of you first.
Okay. Everybody, I love our committee. Thank you so much for being engaged. We had some people who joined in who were not on our committee. I mean, Rosa, we feel like you are on our committee. Detta, we're glad to see you here. Michael Francoeur, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And we will see everybody at the full board meeting. In the meantime, please stay. Spring is coming. Yay! And you know what? With spring coming, we all need to figure out, since we didn't have our holiday party, we need to talk about having some gathering, because as more of us get vaccinated, maybe we can do something, even if it's like in the park, or we can
That would
get
be lovely in the park. Maybe we could do it outside.
See one another in person. There are people I've never seen. Rosa, I've never seen you. Dada, I've never seen you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
In person. So that would be.
Pat, can I mention the excluded workers again? So a couple months ago, I talked to you guys about the excluded worker fund and about the workplace COVID protection bills that were put forward, and we never got a chance to actually do the resolution. Thankfully, it's unnecessary at this point with regard to the excluded worker fund. That was passed after the people that had been advocating for it went on like a 20-day hunger strike. It was finally passed. But the COVID protection bill is still not all the way through. I think it passed in the Senate, the New York State Senate, but still has to pass in the Assembly. So if it has not yet passed, that may be something that I bring up again to try to get done. It's basically to ensure that, let's say you're a teacher, right? You need proper ventilation in your classroom, in the school, some of those things, some of those machinery, that equipment is so old, they needed to be replaced anyway. But now, particularly because of COVID, you got to get those old non-working filters and things out of there. And you have to have, working equipment. So that's what the bill covers. I use teachers as an example, but it's really for, just any industry. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, definitely, Mary. All right, so we've got that on our agenda. We have, hopefully, Officer Nelson will come back, or one of the NCOs. We have possibly the bathroom discussion, and we definitely have the city council reform and state reform for next month. And I think that'd be a lot. Don't you guys think that's
big
a lot?
agenda?
It is a lot, yes.
And dog poop.
And dog poop.
Dog poop. Yeah, dog poop and bathroom.
We have to,
That's
we have
always
to
on the agenda.
wait into that conversation, Mitch.
I'm sorry.
In
And
the
I agree with
meantime-
Rosa about the bathrooms, that the maintenance of the bathrooms need to be on the same par with our bathrooms.
Yeah, the maintenance and the safety protocols for the
Yes.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay,
Agreed.
everybody, again, thank you. Please stay safe. I'm looking forward to next month's meeting.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
I love you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks for the input.